Chapter 66. Xia Dong was worried about Xiao Guai's health, so she reminded her to run slower and not fall. Xia Dong and Yisiki kept an eye on the child as they laid out a tablecloth on the grass and placed the food they brought from home on the tablecloth. There were steak, fried chicken legs, prawns, fish fillets, vegetable salad, fruits, and many other snacks. While they were having fun, a Rolls-Royce stopped not far away. A handsome man in casual clothes stepped out, followed by a little boy in sportswear. Xia Dong was the first to see them. When her gaze fell on Bailey Han, she was stunned. She turned to look at the little boy behind him, and her face suddenly turned pale. Bailey Han's son was actually him, Bailey Yi. She was an idiot. They both had the same surname, Bailey, and they were both so outstanding. Why didn't she think of it? Yisiki asked, "Little Xia, what's wrong? Why do you look so pale all of a sudden?" Bailey Han is here, and his son. Yisiki turned around to take a look, then quickly turned around and put his hand on her shoulder. "It's okay, don't be nervous. Didn't you say that in front of outsiders, the children should call you auntie? They're so smart. As long as you remind them, they'll understand." "No, you don't understand. It's not just because of that." Xia Dong's heart began to turn cold. Her eyes were filled with desolation and helplessness as she muttered, "He hates me. He hates me very much. He hates me for abandoning him." She would never forget Bailey Yi's lonely expression in the zoo, and the words he said. She knew that he hated her. Yisiki looked at the helpless Xia Dong, and his heart ached. He hugged her and patted her back gently as he whispered, "Little Xia, don't be like this. You still have Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao." Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. They were already in the suburbs, yet they still bumped into each other. "Yes, I still have Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao. I can't do this." Xia Dong gradually calmed down. When she was ready to face them, Bailey Han and Bailey Yi had already walked past them. The father and son walked towards the empty lawn with the same cold expression. They looked straight ahead and did not even look at her. A large group of people followed behind them. Soon, servants held up umbrellas above their heads. Servants also set up folding chairs, tables, and food. "Brother, look. It's Brother Yi. Is that handsome uncle next to him his daddy?" Xiao Guai tugged at her brother's arm curiously. Xiao Bao also noticed them. Her eyes were fixed on the father and son. Her small lips pursed, hiding her anger. They actually dared to appear in front of mommy. This was too much. Bailey Yi sat under the umbrella as the nanny served him attentively. Bailey Han looked around and then walked towards the river. His assistant, Lu Zihao, followed behind him with a document in his hand. As he walked, he read, "President, the survey results show that the lawn has a total area of 2,400 square meters. The lawn is 560 meters away from the road and 278.9 meters away from the river. What do you think about building a water park here?" Bailey Han suddenly turned around and asked him. "Will it be too far from the city?" Generally, amusement parks were built in the city with convenient transportation. This area has already been planned as the outer development circle of the city. Otherwise, I wouldn't have spent 20 million to buy this land. In addition, within a year, 2 highways will be diverted here, so transportation will be more convenient. Bailey Han had bought this land, but he had not decided what to do with it. His son's plan for the amusement park made his eyes light up. He brought his son along to inspect the site to see if it was suitable. The result was satisfactory. Building a water park was very practical. After telling Lu Zihao some things, he stood alone by the water and thought about things. From time to time, he heard the laughter of children. He knew that it was the child that Xia Dong and her friend had brought. He did not turn his head to look. He wanted to ignore everything about her and not let her control his emotions. However, Bailey Yi, who was sitting alone under the umbrella, could not help but look at them. They were flying a kite. Xiao Guai was holding the kite from behind, while Xia Xiaobao was running in front. When the kite was in the sky, he handed the string to her. "Brother is so nice," Xiao Guai giggled. Her crisp laughter echoed on the quiet lawn. She opened her palm and gave the chocolate in her hand to Xia Xiaobao. "Brother, this is your favorite chocolate. I saved it for you." Xia Xiaobao touched her soft hair. Nyo ran over with a pastry and stuffed a piece into each of their mouths. The three children pointed at the pastry crumbs on each other's faces and laughed. Hearing their joyous laughter, Bailey Yi's little face was expressionless, but his clear eyes revealed a hint of admiration. When Bailey Han came back, he saw this scene. He touched his head. "Didn't you bring a net to catch butterflies?" "Daddy will catch butterflies with you." Bailey Yi wanted to make a butterfly specimen, so he took the opportunity to go out with his father and brought a net to catch butterflies. Bailey Han rolled up his sleeves. Even though he was holding a net, his movements were as elegant as a European aristocrat. Xia Dong watched Bailey Yi run around with a small net from afar. Bailey Han smiled and said something. His little face puffed up and showed an unconvinced expression. She couldn't help but guess what Bailey Han said to make him show such a cute expression. She felt a little sad. Since he was born, she had never hugged him or taken care of him for a minute. No wonder he resented her. "Mommy, what's wrong? Your eyes are red." At some point, Xiao Guai had sat down beside Xia Dong and worriedly asked. "Mommy is fine. Just now, a little bug flew into Mommy's eyes." She quickly wiped the corners of her eyes and said with a smile. "Mommy, let me help you blow." Xiao Guai raised her head seriously. Her chubby little hands held her cheeks and gently blew on her eyes. Xia Dong smiled and blinked. "The little bug is out. Mommy is fine. Baby is amazing." "Xiao Guai, do you remember what Mommy said before? In front of outsiders, you have to call Mommy Aunt. If someone asks, you have to say Mommy is your aunt. Do you understand?" Yes, I still remember, Aunt." "Good girl." Her heart trembled and she hugged her daughter tightly in her arms. From beginning to end, Bailey Han didn't look at Xia Dong and the others. He quickly caught 2 beautiful butterflies, but Bailey Yi didn't catch any. He smiled and teased his son. "So there are things my son is not good at." Bailey Yi puffed up his cheeks angrily and stared with his big eyes. "Daddy, I'm only 4 years old. When I'm as tall as you, I'll definitely be more capable than you." Bailey Han found his puffed-up cheeks very interesting and couldn't help but pinch them. The smile in his eyes widened. Bailey Han's son, is naturally very capable. Of course. Bailey Yi raised his chin coolly, looking insufferably arrogant. Bailey Han laughed. This was the first time he laughed openly in front of everyone. The servants looked as if they had seen a ghost. Bailey Yi also had an expression of, "Wow, so it can be like this." Bailey Han didn't take his son's surprise seriously. He directly picked him up from the ground and said, "Xiao Yi, do you want to try throwing me high?" His son's eyes widened even more. "Throwing me high? Is this what many fathers do in TV dramas?" It was as if he was facing a sacred ceremony and he nodded cautiously. "Don't worry, I'm here. I won't let you get hurt," he said comfortingly and then threw him up. Bailey Yi bit his lip and didn't scream. His little face was full of surprise. Xia Dong, who had been secretly watching them, almost went into shock. She jumped up from the ground. Fortunately, Yi Siki held her hand. "Little Xia, don't be agitated." Bailey Han caught his son steadily. Xia Dong sighed in relief. Yi Siki sighed. "I think we should go back first. If this goes on, you'll definitely not be able to resist rushing up." Xia Dong didn't say anything. She watched as Bailey Han tossed her son up and down and caught him steadily. Her heart also went up and down, rising and falling unsteadily. By the time Bailey Han and his son finished the game, Xia Dong and the others had already left and were walking on the road. He couldn't help but wonder what the relationship between her and the two children who were so close to her was. No, he had decided not to care about her anymore. No matter what she did, it had nothing to do with him. In less than a month of pregnancy, Xia Dong began to have pregnancy symptoms. She retched and felt nauseous. Fortunately, she hid it well and didn't arouse suspicion. On this day, Xiao Tianxing called to invite her to a barbecue party at his ranch on the weekend. When she heard that Bailey Han and Su Yunqian were also going, she immediately declined. Xiao Tianxing said with a smile, Yun already expected that you would refuse, so he asked me to tell you that if you don't come, he will ask Lin Weiwei to refuse the interview with your magazine. Xia Dong smiled bitterly. It seems that I have no choice but to accept. Please help me tell Bailey Yun that I despise his despicable behavior. Xiao Tianxing laughed. Don't worry, I will definitely pass on this sentence. After work on Friday, Bailey Yun drove his flashy red sports car, holding a large bouquet of perfumed lilies to Xia Dong's downstairs to pick her up. Bailey Yun rarely wore formal suits. He usually wore casual clothes, but today he wore an expensive handmade suit for the first time. The high-grade silver made his figure very tall and straight. He gentlemanly sent the flowers and smiled. I came here to apologize to you. Miss Xia, please forgive my despicable behavior. Xia Dong raised her eyebrows in amusement. Do you think I can be bought with a bouquet of flowers? Of course not, so I have already booked a restaurant. I don't know if Miss Xia would like to honor me. Okay, which restaurant? Keep it a secret first. I promise you will be surprised. You are so mysterious. If I am not surprised, I will embarrass you. His charming fox eyes were full of smiles. Don't worry, I am full of confidence. Get in the car. What about my car? Give me the key, I will ask my friend to help you drive it back. Bailey Yun made a phone call. In less than 5 minutes, a young handsome man riding a motorcycle rushed over. He threw the key to the handsome man. Asen, this is my girlfriend's car. Be careful, the address is, don't worry, I will definitely send the car back to sister-in-law completely. I will put the key in the security room of the community. The handsome man called us and waved to the two and drove away. Hey, when did I become your girlfriend? Don't talk nonsense. Xia Dong waited for Bailey Yun's friend to leave and began to settle accounts. Welfare, Xinwu 799. Uncle Chen to them personally to serve them some sweet rice wine. Xia Dong smiled shyly. Sorry, I can't drink. I get drunk the moment I touch alcohol. Uncle Chen smiled kindly, this is Japanese rice wine, the alcohol content is very low. You won't get drunk if you drink a little. Bailey Yun seemed to have thought of something and laughed, forget it, let's not persuade her to drink. Uncle Chen, you don't know, last time she got drunk, she pulled my brother and left. Xia Dong stopped him, hey, don't say anymore, it's too embarrassing. Young people, what are you afraid of? It's okay to be embarrassed. In one's life, it's only interesting to do things that are out of line a few times. Uncle Chen smiled and put away the wine. Yun, don't drink anymore, you still have to drive. Not sure if she was moved by Uncle Chen's words, but Xia Dong suddenly had the urge to try. She took a sip of the wine in the cup, the fragrance lingered in her mouth, and there was no smell of alcohol at all. Unknowingly, the cup of wine went down her stomach. She blinked and laughed, this is the first time in my life that I didn't get drunk after drinking. But your face is already red. Bailey Yun supported his head with one hand, admiring her red cheeks from the wine. At this moment, she was really beautiful. Her eyes were like treasures, and there was a faint mist in them. Her eyes flashed with an intoxicated luster. He couldn't help but reach out and use his finger to trace her delicate eyebrows, caressing her plump lips. Her eyes revealed surprise and uneasiness. He suddenly retracted his hand and smiled mischievously. How is it? Are you satisfied with the place I brought you to? She smiled and nodded, couldn't be more satisfied. Bam! The lights suddenly went out, and Uncle Chen's voice came from the quiet room. Let's welcome the last dessert. Under the cold moonlight, Uncle Chen walked out from the room with a cake in his hands, and the cake was lit with candles. Ah Yun, happy birthday. Uncle Chen placed the cake on the table. Thank you, Uncle Chen. Bailey Yun's eyes flashed with a smile. He saw Xia Dong's shocked expression under the candlelight, and then she puffed her cheeks. Just when he thought she was going to be angry, she suddenly laughed again. So it's your birthday today. Happy birthday, I also want to give you a present. Bailey Yun was very curious. What present? She smiled and didn't answer. She turned to Uncle Chen. Uncle Chen, do you have any musical instruments here? Uncle Chen was a classical music enthusiast. I have an erhu here. That's great, can I borrow it? Of course. Uncle Chen took the erhu. Bailey Yun watched as she took the erhu, skillfully plucked the strings, and then tuned it. She tilted her head slightly and focused on the erhu, as if she was about to start a sacred work. Her fingertips slowly plucked the strings, and just as the notes jumped a few bars, Uncle Chen became excited. It was a reflection of the moon. He didn't expect this little girl to play the erhu, and what was even more incredible was that she played it so well. The ethereal music flowed slowly under the moonlight, and her fingertips gently slid between the strings. She lowered her eyes and focused on playing. The moonlight shone on her body, and she was as charming as the goddess of moonlight. Bailey Yun was intoxicated by her music, and his deep eyes watched her all the way until the song ended. She raised her head and smiled slowly. Bailey Yun, happy birthday. Thank you, this is the most special present I've ever received. His heart trembled, and he tried hard to suppress something in his voice. Uncle Chen was very excited. Xiao Xia, I didn't expect you to play the erhu. There aren't many young people who know this nowadays. My uncle likes the erhu very much, and under his influence, I learned it for 2 years. I haven't touched it in a long time, and my hands are a little rusty. I've embarrassed myself in front of Uncle Chen. You're too kind, you play it very well. It was getting late, and Uncle Chen asked them to stay for the night. However, Xia Dong didn't want the children to worry, so she insisted on going home. On the way back, the alcohol started to kick in, and Xia Dong felt a little dizzy. Walking on the wooden bridge was like walking on clouds. She put her hands behind her back and looked up at the night sky, taking light steps. Bailey Yun's heart skipped a beat when he saw this, and he quickly grabbed her arm. Xia Xia, watch your step. She turned back and giggled. I'm fine, I'm fine. Look, I can even dance. She stood on her toes and struck a classic ballet pose. She wanted to twirl around for him to see, but he grabbed her arm tightly and said helplessly, Okay, I know you're very good. Let's stop fooling around and go home, okay? Yes, let's go home. I miss Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai so much. Let's go quickly. She hugged his arm and giggled foolishly. Bailey Yun couldn't help but facepalm. Sure enough, he couldn't let her drink. Bailey Yun tied her to the seat with the seatbelt and patted her head. Xia Xia, I'm going to drive. Gigai, don't move. Okay, I know. Hurry up and drive. She grinned and laughed. Her rosy cheeks glowed seductively under the soft light, and her pure smile made him feel inexplicably happy. Her plump lips parted slightly, and his hands slowly moved from her head to her cheek. His eyes were filled with desire. Hee, it tickles. She laughed until her shoulders trembled. You naughty guy. His charming thoughts were broken by her laughter. He helplessly pinched her cheeks, exhaled a long breath, and started the car. The night scenery outside the car quickly passed by. The person beside him breathed steadily and slowly fell asleep. Bailey Yun occasionally glanced at her, and the smile in his eyes never disappeared. The car stopped in her neighborhood. Chapter 68. Xia Dong was speechless as she rubbed her son's hair. Baby, you've misunderstood your dad. He didn't abandon us. No, no, no. I wouldn't misunderstand him. He's the one who abandoned us. He saw it clearly. He was hugging another woman and laughing so happily. He even had a new son. It was that annoying guy, Bailey E. This misunderstanding was huge. Xia Dong wanted to explain, but after thinking about it, she didn't say it. She didn't want the children to be involved in adult matters, and she didn't want her smart son to find out that Xiao Guai was sick. She'll just let Bailey Han take the blame for this one time. Xia Dong was wearing a blue and white riding suit with sheepskin boots. Her hair was tied up on top of her head, and she wore a cowboy hat. She looked valiant and very charming. Even Bailey Yun, who was used to seeing beautiful women, couldn't help but light up. Bailey Yun whistled frivolously. Xia Dong imitated him and looked him up and down. He was wearing a maroon riding suit and standing in front of the sports car. He looked handsome and unruly. She raised her eyebrows. Not bad. So you can be a man at times. Bailey Yun's face immediately darkened. I've always been a man. Xia Dong smiled but didn't say anything. She had an expression that said, I'm not going to explain. Bailey Yun's face darkened even more. Although they left early, it was already noon when they arrived at the ranch. The ranch was built on a wide lawn. In front of the White House, there was a large patch of grass. The car drove through the private driveway to the garage. Xia Dong happened to see Bailey Han and Su Yunxian standing side by side. They were talking about something with a smile on their faces. Xia Dong and Bailey Yun were the last to arrive. Xiao Tiansheng, Xiao Qifeng, and Su Jin and all brought female companions. Su Xingqian was Su Jin and's female companion. She didn't expect to meet so many people who didn't want to see her again. Xia Dong felt like running away. Well, our last pair of guests have arrived. Please take a rest and then go to the stud farm to pick your favorite horse. As the host, Xiao Tiansheng was very enthusiastic to call the servants to serve everyone. When Bailey Han saw Xia Dong and Bailey Yun walking over side by side, he frowned slightly. Su Yunxian noticed the slight change in his expression. Han, isn't that Miss Xia? When did Yun change his girlfriend again? Bailey Han's face was indifferent as he said lightly, they are just ordinary friends. Su Yunxian clenched her fists and changed the topic with an elegant smile. Han, shall we go and choose a horse? There were a lot of fine horses in the ranch. Xiao Tiansheng asked the steward of the ranch, Abel, to sneak out the horses. Bailey Han chose a jujube red horse. It was tall and had a very moist coat. Han, look, that horse is so beautiful. Su Yunxian pointed at a white horse in surprise. I want it. Abel hurriedly said, Miss Su, that horse's temper is quite fierce. You should choose a more gentle pony. The white horse proudly raised its neck and stayed away from the other horses. It seemed that it disdained to be with them. It was obviously unruly. Bailey Han also didn't agree with her choice of horse. But it's really beautiful. I want it. Su Yunxian pulled Bailey Han's arm. Her beautiful eyes were full of expectation. Han, my riding skills are very good. Let me try, okay? Bailey Han patted the back of her hand and softened his voice. Yunxian, Gigai, listen to me. If there is an accident, it's not a joke. Okay. Su Yunxian reluctantly looked away from the white horse. She looked around and finally chose the same jujube red horse as Bailey Han. The two horses were very close to each other. From time to time, they would rub their ears against each other. It was obvious that they were a loving couple. She chuckled. Han, look, they are just like us. They are also a couple. Bailey Han smiled and reached out to help her get on the horse. Hold the reins and watch your step. Su Yunxian agilely got on the horse and straightened her back. The white riding suit made her look more noble and elegant. She was like a noble goddess who couldn't be violated. She smiled. I haven't ridden for a long time. It feels so strange to suddenly sit on a horse. Let's go for a walk by the river. Bailey Han also got on the horse. He pulled the reins and walked side by side with her horse. Xia Dong was distressed at the moment. She was pregnant and couldn't ride a horse. She just wanted to pretend that she wasn't feeling well. She didn't expect Xiao Tianqing to be so enthusiastic and give her a horse before she could find an excuse. Our heroine, look at this horse. Her name is Empress. It's the most beautiful horse in the stud farm. What do you think? Do you like it? Xiao Tianqing led the white horse over. It was the horse that Su Yunqian liked. The white horse's fur was moist and its eyes were bright. Xia Dong couldn't help but reach out and touch its neck. She's very beautiful. It matches her name very well. I once had such a beautiful horse. Xiao Tianqing's eyes flashed with a strange light. He suddenly grinned. Xia Dong, Empress seems to like you very much. It had to be known that Empress was the most precious horse. She had a proud personality. It was the first time in history that she had tolerated a stranger like Xia Dong touching her. That's because I'm popular. Xia Dong's hands moved more gently. She combed Empress' hair and joked, "You're called Empress and my horse is called Princess. Are you relatives?" Xiao Tianqing was surprised to find that Empress took the initiative to rub her neck against Xia Dong's body. My God, am I seeing things? The proud Empress actually took the initiative to get close to someone else. Even I, the owner, have never received such treatment. Bai Liyun raised his eyebrows in amusement. How can you compare yourself to Xia, who is loved by everyone, and loved by everyone? You're obviously not on the same level. Xiao Tianqing punched him in annoyance. Damn it, will you die if you don't use your poisonous tongue once? Bailey Yun nimbly dodged and smiled mischievously. Yes, I'll suffocate to death. Xiao Tianqing's mouth twitched. He was too lazy to pay attention to him. He said to Xia Dong, who was watching the show from the side, since Empress likes you so much, you two can be a couple. Empress rubbed against Xia Dong, as if urging her to make a decision. Xia Dong awkwardly touched her neck. Actually, I wanted to tell you that I'm not feeling well and can't ride a horse. Bailey Yun jumped up nervously. You're not feeling well? What's wrong? Do you want to see a doctor? In order to cover up the fact that she was pregnant, Xia Dong decided to embarrass herself. She blushed and said in a small voice, "It's not a big deal. Women have those few days every month." Bailey Yun's handsome face instantly turned red. Xiao Tianqing looked at his embarrassed expression, and his mouth twitched again. Finally, he said, "That's really unfortunate." Yeah, ha, ha, Xia Dong laughed dryly. Bailey Yun's face was still red. He coughed twice. Then, do you need that? Ah. No, I brought my own, I'm going to the washroom. You guys go ahead and have fun. Don't worry about me. Xia Dong was so embarrassed that she fled. After dawdling in the washroom for a long time, she patted her burning face and walked out. She bumped into Bailey Yun, who was pacing back and forth at the door. She pretended that nothing had happened and smiled calmly. Why are you here? Bailey Yun coughed awkwardly. Don't they say that women will feel pain when they do that? I was afraid that you would faint in the washroom. If you didn't come out, I would have rushed in. Xia Dong was speechless. It's not that bad. I'm just feeling a little uncomfortable. Let's go. Don't stand here. It feels so strange. Xia Dong wanted Bailey Yun to go play by himself, but he disagreed and insisted on accompanying her. She didn't want to dampen his spirits, so she held the Empress's hand and walked with him to the riverside to walk the horse. There was a wide lawn on the riverside, but there were also muddy areas that were difficult to walk on. They walked along the lawn to a quieter place. They tied the horse's reins to a tree and let the horse graze while they sat on the lawn to rest. Bailey Yun put his hands behind his head and leaned against the grass. His charming foxy eyes looked at Xia Dong. I've always wanted to ask you a question. What question? Xia Dong sat beside him and supported her head with one hand. Why did you come back? Xia Dong looked up at the white clouds in the sky and said lightly, my home is here. Bailey Yun propped his head up and stared at Xia Dong's face with a burning gaze. Is it because you can't bear to part with me? Xia Dong rolled her eyes. Bailey Yun, can you be more serious? I'm very serious. Can't you tell that I'm a very coquettish person deep down? Bailey Yun stroked his hair coquettishly and winked at her. Hurry up and admit it, Xia Xia. Actually, you can't bear to part with me. Xia Dong held her forehead. Actually, your zodiac sign is a fox. He was always flirting and coquettish. Bailey Yun touched his chin and blinked his charming foxy eyes. Fox? That's a good name. This will be your exclusive nickname for me in the future, darling Xia Xia. Who was going to save her? Bailey Yun rolled a few times on the grass and rolled in front of her. His handsome face suddenly leaned in front of her and the tip of his nose touched hers. His voice was low and bewitching. Xia Xia, forget the past and start over with me, okay? Fox, you're too close. Xia Dong pushed his face away and smiled bitterly. I also want to forget the past and start over, but some things can't be changed. If Xiao Guai wasn't sick, she definitely wouldn't have had anything to do with Bailey's family. Bailey Yun's eyes darkened and he pursed his thin lips. You came back for Xiao Yi. Xia Dong's body stiffened. No. He stroked her hair. That's good. Xiao Yi is the darling of our family. My grandma will definitely not allow you to take her away. She pursed her lips. I understand. As long as Xiao Yi was living well, she shouldn't have any other thoughts. Bailey Yun sighed deeply and took her into his arms when she wasn't paying attention. Since that's the case, what are you still worried about? Is it that hard to start over? Xia Dong didn't know how to answer him, so she didn't answer. She leaned in his arms and listened to his strong heartbeat. A part of her heart softened and she said softly, Bailey Yun, thank you. He hugged her tightly. What are you thanking me for, She chuckled. Thank you for always being my friend and for jumping out to help me when I needed help. From an angle that she couldn't see, Bailey Yun smiled bitterly. So, after all that he had done, she still only treated him as a friend. But it couldn't be helped. Who asked him to fall in love with such an emotional single-celled animal? One day, he would let her discover his feelings for her. Big brother Yun, big sister Xiao Xia, so you're here. Everyone's looking for you. A light voice came from not far away. Su Xingqian was wearing a fiery red equestrian outfit today. It added a bit of heroic spirit to her sweet self. She straightened her back and rode slowly towards Xia Dong and the others. Come and see. Hengcha 866. Chapter 69. Bailey Yun let go of Xia Dong and pulled her up. He looked at Su Xingqian indifferently, as if he was unhappy with her arrival. When Xia Dong heard her call her Sister Xiao Xia, she knew that she already knew her identity and didn't want to have anything to do with her. She nodded politely. Su Xingqian realized that she wasn't welcome and playfully stuck out her tongue. Did I disturb you guys? Sorry. Xia Dong said indifferently, it's nothing. We were just about to go back. Su Xingqian smiled brightly. That's good. Sister Xiao Xia, is that white horse yours? It's so beautiful. I heard from Tianxin brother that the Empress is the best horse in the ranch. Let's have a competition to see, okay? Bailey Yun, who had been silent all this time, said impatiently, didn't you say that they were looking for us? Then why aren't we going to meet up with them? Oh, that's right. Then let's have a competition later. Su Xingqian wasn't angry at all and cheerfully said. Bailey Yun ignored her and untied the horse's reins, handing it to Xia Dong. The two of them led the horse back. When they returned to the ranch, the workers of the ranch had already prepared the items needed for the bonfire party. Xiao Tiansheng, Xiao Qifeng, Su Jinan, and Bailey Han were racing horses. Su Yunqian held a small flag and acted as the referee. The workers who had finished their work gathered to cheer for them, and the sound of laughter resounded through the grassland. Seeing Xia Dong leading the empress over, Su Yunqian's eyes flashed with jealousy. She was just a cheap woman, but her life was so tough. She didn't die even after losing old K as a chess piece. She was really too hateful. Empress, oh Empress, aren't you very arrogant? Why don't you just kick her to death? Her heart was raging with hatred, but the elegant smile on her face was appropriate. Her voice was soft. Ah Yun, where did you guys go? You missed a wonderful competition. Bailey Yun shrugged indifferently. We just walked around. Who's in the lead? Of course it's Brother Han. Sitting on horseback, Su Xingqian took out a pair of binoculars to watch the competition. He shouted excitedly, Big Brother Han's equestrian skills are the best. Su Yunqian smiled and shook her head. Xingqian, be careful. Don't fall off the horse. Xia Dong didn't have binoculars, so she couldn't see the competition. She felt a little bored. Su Yunqian suddenly said, Miss Xia, when the men's competition is over, how about we women's teams have a competition too? Sure, sure. I just mentioned this matter to Sister Xiao Xia. Su Xingqian was the first to chime in. The female companions brought by Xiao Tiansheng and Xiao Qifeng also had no objections. Everyone looked at Xia Dong and waited for her answer. Xia Dong narrowed her eyes. She knew that Su Yunqian wasn't as glamorous as she looked. She also knew that Su Yunqian hated her in her heart. She was so eager to invite her to compete because she wanted her to make a fool of herself. She chuckled. Sorry, I'm not feeling well. I can't participate. Su Xingqian pouted. What's the point of coming to the racecourse if you don't ride a horse? Yeah, it's rare for us to come here. It'll be more lively if we all play together, said the first female companion. The second female companion covered her mouth and laughed. Miss Xia's body is too precious. Or is it that she doesn't want to play with us? Su Yunqian smiled. Since it's not convenient for Miss Xia, let's not make things difficult for her. Miss Xia, why don't you be our judge? Xia Dong thought about it and finally agreed. Su Yunqian said again, it's too boring to compete on the grass. Why don't we have a steeplechase? Everyone was interested. What kind of steeplechase? Su Yunqian pointed in the direction of the forest. I've asked Tiansheng. There's a small path in the forest that can accommodate 2 people at most. There are also some fallen trees blocking the path. This will increase the difficulty of the competition. Of course, if you think it's dangerous, you can reject this suggestion. Su Xingqian clapped and cheered. How interesting. I'll be the first to support it. Seeing that Su Xingqian had agreed, the 2 female companions were too embarrassed to reject. They gritted their teeth and braced themselves to agree. As the only male present, Bailey Yun frowned. I don't agree. I think it's too dangerous. Big Brother Yun, I just went into the forest to take a look. Although the path is narrow, the trees are sparse. The difficulty isn't too high. As long as we're careful, there won't be any danger. Su Xingqian puffed up her cheeks and blinked her big eyes. Or do you think that us girls aren't as good as you guys, so you don't agree with us doing this? Su Yunqian's lips curled into a meaningful smile. Ah Yun, Xingqian is right. You can't look down on us. We've all specially learned horsemanship. The 4 girls were all daughters of famous families. They had dabbled in all kinds of swordsmanship and horsemanship. Bailey Yun shrugged. All right, my good intentions are treated as ill intent. I won't care about you guys anymore. Do as you please. He glanced at Xia Dong in relief. Thankfully, Xia wasn't free and didn't have to mix with them. However, he didn't know that the moment Xia Dong agreed to be the referee, she had already been dragged into it. As a qualified referee, Xia Dong had to survey the track before the competition. Bailey Yun originally wanted to go with her, but Bailey Han and the other 3 men's competition had just ended. Xiao Tianxing said that he had missed the competition and had to be punished, so he was dragged away to drink as punishment. Xia, wait for me to come back. Before Bailey Yun was dragged away, he was still waving his arms and shouting. Su Xingqian snickered. Big sister Xiao Xia, big brother Yun is so good to you. He can't bear to be separated from you for even a moment. How about Miss Xia wait a little longer? Wait for second young master to come back, then you guys can go together. I didn't think that the fickle second young master would have such a cute side. Xia Dong was embarrassed by their words and blushed. Alright, stop talking nonsense. We're just normal friends. Oh, so you're just normal friends. Then I still have a chance. Miss Xia, you're blushing. Xia Dong's mouth twitched. Let's not delay the competition. I'll go survey the track first. You guys can gossip. Because it wasn't convenient for her to ride a horse, she spent a few minutes walking into the forest. According to their agreement, they traversed the entire forest. Sure enough, the path in the forest only allowed 2 horses to walk side by side. If they wanted to cut in, they could only pass through the trees. The trees weren't very dense, so technically speaking, it wasn't very difficult. There weren't many fallen trees blocking the path. After walking for about 10 minutes, they only encountered one. After walking for another 10 minutes, the path was blocked by another thick tree. This piece of wood seemed to have fallen for a long time. Some parts had already started to rot. There were many vines wrapped around it. The vines climbed up the tree next to it, forming a web-like barrier in the middle of the path. If they were to rush over on their horses and couldn't stop in time, they would definitely crash into the vines and be in danger. Xia Dong was very responsible and wanted to clear the vines away. She was glad that she had brought a dagger just in case. Using the dagger, she cut off the vines one by one and used her strength to pull them down from the tree next to her. The last vine was wrapped tightly around the tree trunk. Xia Dong gritted her teeth and pulled with all her strength, but the vine didn't budge at all. She looked up and saw that the lush leaves and branches of the vines were intertwined together, forming an oval shape. It looked like it was airtight. It was an arduous task to separate them. Harder. Xia Dong's feet rubbed a deep hole in the ground. Her hands were burning with pain. Finally, she felt the vines in her hands loosen. With a clatter, an oval-shaped object fell from the air. Wang. A swarm of densely packed objects flew out from the oval, flying towards Xia Dong. Xia Dong's expression changed. Hornets. Damn it, it was actually hornets. She actually poked a hornet's nest. Xia Dong ran forward with all her might, ignoring the branches and thorns. She sprained her ankle as she ran, but she didn't care. She endured the pain and continued to run forward. The loud buzzing sound behind her head was like a bell from hell, making her scalp numb. She ran fast, but the hornets were faster. When she was caught off guard, 1 or 2 of them had already bitten her exposed skin. She slapped a few of them away, but soon, more hornets surrounded her, and their sharp stingers fiercely stung her skin. Hiss. She was in so much pain that she almost cried. She broke a branch and waved it to hit the hornets. Her footsteps were also messed up and she deviated from the path. Suddenly, she slipped and her whole body rolled down the hill. This was a slope of about 50 degrees. It was covered with gravel and dead branches and leaves. Although it greatly cushioned the impact of rolling down, the trees were sparse. In her panic, Xia Dong couldn't grab any obstacles and rolled all the way down. Plop, finally, she rolled to the foot of the hill. She gritted her teeth and turned over, avoiding the oncoming tree stump, and crashed into a pile of grass. Her whole body was in pain. Xia Dong was in so much pain that she was about to faint. Especially the part of her face that had been stung by the hornets, it was already swollen and pressing on her visual nerves. Her vision had begun to blur, and even breathing was painful. Her child, would anything happen to him? Xia Dong turned sideways with difficulty to avoid pressing on her abdomen. She trembled and covered her abdomen with her hands. The pain, coupled with the toxins released by the hornets in her body, made her consciousness weaker and weaker. She wanted to call for help, but her voice was pitifully weak. Finally, she fainted weakly in the grass. At the ranch, Bailey Yun wanted to run away after being forced to drink a few glasses of wine, but Xiao Tiansheng and Su Jinan watched him closely, as if he was an enemy. Xiao Qifeng also joked, "What's wrong? Can't bear to leave your Xia. Fine, I admit defeat, okay." Xia promised to be the judge for their female team. She wants to go explore the track. I don't feel safe leaving her alone. Don't stop me. Bailey Han looked indifferent. Track? Where's the track? It's in the woods opposite. They're going to have some kind of obstacle course. Bailey Yun seemed to have grasped at a life-saving straw. He smiled fawningly. Brother, help me put in a good word and ask them to let me go. Bailey Han did not say anything. Xiao Tiansheng took the initiative to let go of Bailey Yun's arm and said, "Seeing that you're in such a hurry, how can we make things difficult for you? Hurry up and go. Don't let your Xia wait for too long. Tiansheng, you're the best at critical moments." Bailey Yun threw him a seductive look. Xiao Tiansheng shuddered in disgust. Spare me. Why are there only a few of you? Where's Xia Dong? Bailey Yun finally got away. He looked around and did not see Xia Dong. Su Yunxian said, Miss Xia said that she didn't want to delay the race, so she went to explore the track first. Bailey Yun was so anxious that he almost jumped. Why didn't any of you follow her? What if something happened? Come and see, Hung Cha 866. Chapter 70. The female companion was not convinced. We have a competition later, so of course we have to conserve our energy. How can we care about her? Selfish. Bai Liyun coldly snorted and snatched a horse. He leaped onto the horse's back and slapped the horses, but as he galloped towards the forest. He rode the horse all the way, passing by the place where Xia Dong was tidying up the vines. The horse's hooves trampled over the tattered beehive. He exited the woods from the other end, but he still did not see Xia Dong. Something must have happened. Bailey Yun's heart was beating wildly. He returned to the woods, slowed down, and carefully retraced the path he came from. He held the reins with both hands, looked around, and called out Xia Dong's name loudly. However, there was no response. He could only hear the birds chirping in the woods. Although the woods were not big, they were covered with dead branches, fallen leaves, and thorns, making it very difficult to find someone. He finally stopped at the place where Xia Dong was tidying up the vines. The vines were cut off neatly, and it was obvious that it was man-made. Xia Dong must have stopped here. Xia. Bailey Yun jumped off the horse and called out her name all around. He anxiously searched for her as he took out his cell phone to contact Xiao Tiansheng. Tiansheng, something happened to Xia. Hurry up and bring some people over. He had already searched the surroundings of the trail but could not find anyone. He became more and more nervous, and his hand holding the cell phone trembled slightly. He began to deviate from the path and walked towards the hillside. He stood on the edge of the cliff and looked down. The thorns and trees blocked his view, and he could not see anything. The uneasiness in his heart grew stronger and stronger. Finally, he found a dagger in the grass by the cliff. It's Xia's dagger. She must be at the bottom of the hill. Bailey Yun became even more anxious and rushed down the hillside. Because he was so fast, he stumbled several times and almost fell to the ground. He grabbed the weeds under him to stop himself from tumbling. Gravel rolled down the hillside with his violent movements, and some even hit Xia Dong's body. Xia Xia, Bailey Yun finally saw Xia Dong lying on her side on the ground. His heart was in his throat. He almost crawled over to her and anxiously turned her body over. Xia Xia, what happened to you? Bailey Yun's expression changed when he saw her face. Her originally beautiful cheeks were now swollen like steamed buns, and her snow-white neck was covered with small scars. Fortunately, her body was still warm and she was still breathing. Bai Liyun forcefully tightened his arms and used his broad chest to firmly imprison her. His magnetic voice carried a hurried gasp as he said, "Bad girl, you almost scared me to death." Her soft body leaned against his chest and did not respond at all. He rubbed his forehead against her soft hair. Xia Xia, cheer up. I'll get you out of here right away. He carried her on his back and climbed up the hillside with difficulty. Bailey Yun grabbed the branches and vines with one hand and tightly held Xia Dong on his back with the other. He climbed up with 3 sliding steps. It only took him a few seconds to rush down the hillside, but it took him almost 15 minutes to climb up. When he climbed up in a sorry state, Xiao Tiansheng and the others had also arrived on horseback. When Bailey Yun dragged Xia Dong up with difficulty, Xiao Tiansheng jumped off his horse and rushed up to help him hold Xia Dong back. Hey, Abel, hurry up and call the doctor. Xiao Qifeng was still on horseback and took out his phone to contact Abel, who was guarding the ranch. Looking at Xia Dong's pitiful face, Bailey Han tightened his grip on the reins. His knuckles gradually turned white, but there was no expression on his face. He just sat on the horse's back without saying a word. His eyes were cold and emotionless. Xiao Tiansheng helped Bailey Yun help Xia Dong onto the horse's back. Bailey Yun sat behind Xia Dong and hugged her tightly in his arms as they returned to the ranch. Bailey Yun carried Xia Dong and ran into the room that had been prepared. Abel led an old doctor in his 50s or 60s in. Bailey's second young master, this is Dr. Li, this is Bailey's second young master. Bai Liyun hurriedly stepped aside. Dr. Li, I'll have to trouble you to examine her. Dr. Li nodded. Second young master, please go out first and call a girl in. I will examine her later and need her help. Bailey Yun hurriedly said, Abel, please call a maid in. The maid quickly went in. Bailey Yun immediately went to wash his face and change his clothes. When he returned to the guest room, Dr. Li had already finished the examination. This miss is fine. But she looks seriously injured. Doctor, please examine her carefully again. Dr. Li was not displeased at all. He stroked his beard and patiently analyzed, she is wearing riding clothes and is wrapped tightly. There are only a few abrasions on the back of her hands and a few places where she was hit by gravel. As for her face, she was only stung by a wasp. Although it hurts, it is not serious. Once the wasp venom is removed, she will be better soon. Bailey Yun's worried heart finally relaxed. When will she wake up? Tomorrow. I have already removed the wasp venom for her. In 2 or 3 days, the swelling on her face will disappear. I plan to send her to the hospital and take an X-ray. Will it be safer? An X-ray must be taken, but she is now in a coma and is not suitable to move around. Don't worry, she is fine. Well, I respect your opinion. Dr. Li, sorry to trouble you. Second young master, you are too polite. I will come to see her tomorrow. Don't worry. After sending Dr. Li away, Bailey Yun returned to the guest room to take care of Xia Dong. Soon, Su Yunqian and Su Xingqian came over. Su Xingqian looked guilty and said that he should have followed Xia Dong to check the track. Su Yunqian comforted Bailey Yun not to worry. Bailey Yun's mind was on Xia Dong, so he only said a few words of courtesy. They also knew that it was not the right time, so they said a few more words of comfort and left. Xiao Tiansheng and the others also came. Xiao Tiansheng asked Bai Liyun to rest and asked the servants to take care of Xia Dong, but Bai Liyun refused. Bai Lihan glanced indifferently at Xia Dong, who was lying on the bed, and said indifferently, "Let's cancel tonight's bonfire party." Bai Liyun pursed his lips. "Let's hold it as usual. If Xia wakes up and finds out that the bonfire party was cancelled because of her, she will feel uneasy." Bai Lihan glanced at him and did not say anything, but his eyes darkened. So the bonfire party was held as usual. Bai Liyun stayed by Xia Dong's side. In the middle of the night, she suddenly groaned in pain. Her brows were tightly knitted, and she tossed and turned in bed. She slept very restlessly. Her face was red and her lips were a little dry. Bai Liyun touched her forehead. It was very hot. She had a fever. He immediately ran downstairs to the kitchen to get ice. When he went upstairs, Bai Lihan, who lived on the same floor, came out in his pajamas. "What's wrong?" Bai Liyun paused. Xia has a fever." Bai Lihan frowned. "Ask Dr. Li to come and see her." "Why are you waking her up in the middle of the night? Or do you have a better idea?" "I'll ask the servants to get him." Bai Liyun stuffed the ice into his hand. "Brother, help me look after Xia." Bai Liyun rushed downstairs, and Bai Lihan entered the guest room with the ice. He saw the person lying on the bed at a glance. Her face was so swollen that it was almost impossible to recognize her original face. Her face was flushed, and her brows were tightly knitted. She was sleeping very restlessly. He pursed his lips and put the ice wrapped in a towel on her forehead. Feeling the cold air, her furrowed brows gradually relaxed. When his fingertips touched her burning skin, he immediately retracted his fingers as if he had been electrocuted. A feeling of self-loathing grew in his heart. She had already said that she wanted to draw a line between them, so why should he care so much about her? He stood up abruptly and left the guest room resolutely. When Bai Liyun returned to the guest room, there was only Xia Dong in the room with ice on her forehead. A few minutes later, Dr. Li came over with a medical kit. "Dr. Li, it's great that you're here. Xia has a fever. I don't know if she has an internal injury. Young Master Tingrui, don't worry. Bring me some more ice. I'll examine her." Bai Liyun went downstairs to get the ice. Dr. Li examined Xia Dong and muttered, "So she has a cold. No wonder she has a fever. Dr. Li, how is she?" Bai Liyun simply came up with a bucket of ice. "She probably caught a cold. She has a cold, but it's not a big deal. I gave her a bottle of saline and prescribed some cold medicine. Let her take it when she wakes up." Dr. Li took out a few medicine bottles from the medical kit and put them on the table. "There are pills and liquid medicine in here. Take them every 4 hours. She has to take them at night?" "Yes. She will recover faster this way." Dr. Li carried the medical kit. "I'll come to see her after breakfast tomorrow morning." Bai Liyun walked him to the door. "Dr. Li, I'm sorry to disturb your rest." "It's okay, young Master Tingrui. This miss must be your girlfriend. She is very lucky to have you taking care of her so carefully. I also wish. I wished she was his girlfriend. What a pity. Take good care of her. See you tomorrow." After nearly an hour, the saline drip was finished. Bai Liyun removed the needle for her and took her temperature. It had dropped a lot. Only then did he feel relieved. When Xia Dong woke up, she felt pain on her face and her arm was heavy. She turned her head painfully and found a furry head on her arm. No wonder it was heavy. She had just pulled her arm away when the furry head suddenly lifted up, revealing a handsome face and a slightly hoarse voice unique to the morning. "You're awake. Do you feel any discomfort? I want to drink water." Xia Dong just opened her mouth, and her face was pulled until it was painful. She touched her face. It was swollen and fat. It must be as ugly as a pig's head. Suddenly, she remembered something and her hand fell to her abdomen. The child. What's wrong? Is your stomach hurting? Bailey Yun asked nervously. How should she ask? Did she have a miscarriage? Was the child still there? No, she couldn't let anyone know about her pregnancy. Xia Dong's face turned pale. She bit her lip and changed the way she asked, was I seriously injured yesterday? Did I bleed? No, the doctor said you only suffered some superficial injuries. It's nothing serious. He thought she was worried about the injuries on her face, so he touched her cheek gently and chuckled. The injuries on your face are fine. In 2 or 3 days, you will recover your beauty. That's good. Xia Dong let out a long breath. This should mean that the child was safe. Attention, Hengcha 866. Chapter 71. You've caught a cold. Come, Gigai, take the medicine. Bailey Yun poured some water and handed the pill to her. Xia Dong frowned and swallowed the pill. She drank a few mouthfuls of water and returned the cup to him. Looking at his tired face, she felt touched and warm. Fox, did you take care of me for the whole night again? Who asked me to be your friend? If I don't take care of you, who will? Bai Liyun couldn't stand it when she looked at him with her wet eyes. He really wanted to pull her into his embrace. He reached out his large palm and rubbed her messy hair. You rascal, why are you trying to be brave? Didn't I tell you to wait for me? Xia Dong smiled. I'm sorry. I didn't know I would be so unlucky. I actually poked a hornet's nest. In the end, I was chased by the hornet and accidentally rolled down the hill. You actually poked a hornet's nest? Bailey Yun didn't know whether to be angry or amused. The corner of his mouth twitched for a long time. In the end, he sighed. Liking her was destined to be a mess. He should have accepted his fate a long time ago, shouldn't he? At 8:00 in the morning, Dr. Li came over for a checkup. Your fever has gone down. Take the medicine for 2 more days and you'll be as good as new. Miss Xia, you have to avoid spicy food for the next few days. Otherwise, there will be scars on your face. I'll be careful. Thank you, Dr. Li, you're welcome, Miss Xia. Second young master is a very competent boyfriend. You have to cherish him. When Dr. Li said this, Xiao Tiansheng and a large group of people came to visit Xia Dong. Everyone looked at the two of them ambiguously, as if they had done something shameful. Xiao Tiansheng supported his chin with his right hand and coughed. There was a suppressed smile in his voice. Xia Dong, Yun took care of you for the whole night. His feelings for you can be seen by heaven and earth. Xia Dong was slightly embarrassed. Go away, what are you doing here? Bailey Yun punched him angrily. Su Yunqian smiled. Miss Xia, when you were injured, we were all very worried. Fortunately, you are fine. Thank you for your concern, everyone. I'm fine now. I'm sorry if I've disturbed everyone's mood. Xia Dong politely looked at the crowd one by one. She found that Bailey Han was not among them. That was good, she did not have to face him. Xiao Tiansheng raised his eyebrows. Why are you being so polite? Just stay here and recuperate. When you recover, I want to have a competition with you. I want to see how good your writing skills are. I accept your challenge. If there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely compete with you. After all, Xia Dong had just woken up. After saying a few words, she showed signs of fatigue. Everyone could see that, so they all bid her farewell and let her have a good rest. Xia Dong said to Bailey Yun, because of me, you haven't rested for the whole night. You must be very tired. I have servants here to take care of you. Go back to your room and rest first. Bailey Yun nodded and pulled the blanket over her. He instructed the servant, don't forget to give Miss Xia her medicine on time. Got it, second young master. After Bailey Yun left, Xia Dong said that she was hungry and wanted to eat porridge. She sent the servant away and then called home. She was afraid that the children would be worried, so she only said that she had caught a cold. She cheered up and said a few words to them. When she heard the servant knocking on the door, she hung up. On Sunday afternoon, the guests left one after another because they had to work the next day. Bailey Han and Su Yunqian also left. From the beginning to the end, Bailey Han did not look at her again. Xiao Tiansheng was a hands-off boss, so he had no pressure at work. He tried his best to persuade Xia Dong to stay at the ranch to recuperate, but Xia Dong did not want to disturb him anymore. Moreover, she did not want the children to worry, so she went home under the escort of Bailey Yun. Bailey Yun insisted on sending her to the door. He stayed in the living room of her house and instantly turned into an old mother. He nagged her a lot about what she should eat and what she should not eat. Fortunately, most of the swelling on her face had disappeared, so Xia Dong did not cause a large-scale panic when she got home. However, she was still bombarded by Xia Xiaobao and Xiao Guai. "Mommy, what's with the wound on your face? Who was that handsome uncle just now? Is he your boyfriend? Mom, tell me the truth. You didn't come home at night for the past 2 days, and you even made your head look like a pig's head. What happened?" Xia Dong pinched the two little buns' faces. "Mommy is fine. I was just kissed by 2 wasps, Xia Xiao Guai, oh ah. So the wasp's kiss was so scary. Xia Xiao Bao, oh_oh. Mom, you idiot." Xia Xiao Bao was deeply ashamed of having such a careless mother. He wiggled his little butt and went back to his room. After rummaging for a long time, he wiggled his little butt and came out again. He stuffed an ointment into Xia Dong's hand and raised his chin coolly. "This ointment, apply it externally 3 times a day. It won't leave any scars. I don't tell ordinary people." Xia Dong was instantly embarrassed. She took the ointment and saw that it was written in Japanese. "Son, where did you get this ointment?" "I stole it from Uncle Shen." She knew it. No matter what, the ointment was quite effective. When she got up the next morning, the redness and swelling on her face had miraculously disappeared. Her pig-headed face was as beautiful as before. She had taken the entire morning off to go to the hospital for a pregnancy test. She wondered if that thrilling experience had affected the child. This was the first time she had done a pregnancy test since she was pregnant. Lying on the hospital bed, she felt a little complicated. "Doctor, how is my child? Is it healthy? Don't make me and the babies worry, okay? Don't worry. We'll be fine. Xia, I miss you and the babies very much." Mika Kito's voice was low and mellow like fine wine with a hint of drunkenness. Xia Dong listened to his soothing voice and seemed to be intoxicated by the gentle wind. Her worries gradually dissipated. Her bright eyes curved into beautiful crescents and the corners of her lips curled up. She said softly, "Brother Shen, I miss you too." Xia Dong could not see that Mika Kito, who was far away in Japan, had a gentle smile on his face because of her words. His slender fingers stroked Xia Dong's photo and he chuckled softly. Xia, wait for me. I'll come to China to accompany you in half a month. Okay. You have to protect yourself. Don't let yourself get hurt. Also, no matter how busy you are, you can't forget to eat, and you can't drink. You know that your stomach is not well, but you still like to drink. You men are so annoying. Xia Dong nagged at Mika Kito. The smile on his face grew brighter and brighter, scaring the hell out of his subordinate who came in to call him for a meeting. "I've said so much. Do you remember it all?" Xia Dong's mouth was dry from talking. She was very dissatisfied when she realized that the person on the other end of the phone only gave a perfunctory, "Okay. I'm listening very attentively." Mika Kito's voice was full of laughter. "If I said that all my attention was on your voice, but I didn't remember a single word of what you said, would you repeat it?" "Brother Shen." Xia Dong called his name angrily. Mika Keto could almost imagine how cute Xia Dong's delicate face would be when she was angry. He could not help but laugh out loud. Xia Dong was speechless at this careless man. She said angrily, "Brother Shen, if you continue to be so perfunctory and let your guard down, I'll make you recite everything I said." Mika Keto held back his laughter. "I won't tease you anymore. I've remembered everything." "Really?" Xia Dong could not help but laugh. "Okay, that's good. You must be very busy. I heard Takeda knocking on the door to call you for a meeting. Hurry up and go to the meeting. Although you're the boss, you can't let them wait for too long." "Okay. Take care." When Beitangshan hung up the phone, there was still a smile on his face. When he raised his head to look at Ueda, who was waiting at the door, his expression had turned cold. It was as if the smiling man just now was just Ueda's imagination. Come and see, Hongcha 866. Chapter 72. Xia Dong hung up the phone and began to think about her next move. Mika Keto would arrive in China in half a month. If he found out that she wanted to use his seed, or steal it, to save Xiao Guai, he would definitely not agree. So, Xia Dong had better deal with Bai Lihan before he came to China. But how could she deal with him? Xia Dong wanted to bang her head against the wall. The evils she brought upon herself were the hardest to bear. How could she have been so ruthless in the past? Bai Lihan must have completely abandoned her. When they were at the ranch, he did not even look at her. Even when she was injured, he did not say a word. After thinking about it for a long time, she could only come to one conclusion. She had to be thick-skinned. The first thick-skinned tactic was to pester him. Scene 1. Hello, who is this? Mr. Bailey, hello, I am Xia Dong. Beep 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 beep. Scene 2. Xia Dong sent the latest issue of the magazine to Bai Lihan. Inside the box, she even put a handmade card to express her gratitude to him as a business partner. In the end, Bai Lihan's secretary called her. "Miss Xia, the president asked you to send the sample magazine to the advertising department in the future. He also asked you to stop sending him strange things." Xia Dong fell to the ground. Scene 3. Xia Dong found out from Bai Liyun that Bai Lihan was having a gathering with a few old friends at Charm Bar. So, she dressed up so seductively that she almost could not recognize herself after changing her appearance. She purposely walked around Charm Bar in an attempt to attract his attention. When she finally saw him alone, she quickly went up to him and winked seductively. "Handsome, are you interested in having a drink with me?" However, he pushed her away and looked at her with disdain. "You're too dirty. I'm not interested." Xia Dong's face was covered in blood. Xia Dong had been defeated repeatedly. She had long been thick-skinned. As long as there was a collaboration with Shenghao Group, she would dress up beautifully. From time to time, she would appear in front of Bai Lihan and create a lot of coincidental encounters. However, he did not even look at her. Just like that, a week passed. Xia Dong felt deeply defeated. He curled up on the sofa at home and licked his wounds. Xia Xiaoguai's soft little body leaned over. "Mommy, what's wrong? You don't look happy." Xia Dong rubbed her daughter's soft hair. "Mommy is fine. I'm just a little tired." Xia Xiaobao's beautiful black eyes flashed. He had long noticed that his mother was a little strange recently. From time to time, she would dress up beautifully and go out in high spirits. However, she would come back dejectedly. He had secretly followed her a few times and discovered her secret. However, his mother was unwilling to tell him, so he could only pretend not to know. He touched his little chin and his bright eyes turned. He said crisply, "Mom, I heard that Bai Lihan likes to explore and climb mountains." Xia Dong was stunned. Bai Lihan liked to explore and climb mountains? Wait a minute. If he really liked it, then wouldn't she have more opportunities to get close to him? Her eyes lit up and she snorted on her son's head. Son, where did you hear that? Why don't I know about it? Xia Xiaobao puffed up his cheeks and his eyes flashed. Of course, I heard it from Bei Yi. Really? She was a little doubtful. Aren't you and Bei Yi sworn enemies? He put his hands behind his back and raised his little chin arrogantly. That's why I have to get to know him better. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Xia Dong slapped her forehead. Why was she so stupid? If she wanted to get close to Bei Han, she had to understand his preferences and cater to his interests. Thus, the second tactic of being thick-skinned began: cater to his interests. Xia Dong found a private detective and asked them to help investigate Bei Han's preferences. The next day, the private detective cried and said that he could not continue the investigation because his men were kidnapped and beaten up by several mysterious people during the investigation. They cried and said that Bailey's family was too powerful and they could not afford to offend them. Xia Dong had no choice but to ask Bei Yun. Bei Yun asked suspiciously, Xia, you've been asking a lot about my brother recently. Are you interested in him? Xia Dong laughed dryly. How can that be? Our magazine is cooperating with Shenghao Group. The magazine is planning to hold an event and invite all partners to attend. We have to understand the partners in advance. I'm doing this for work. Bei Yun did not believe her. Do you still need to understand their interests and preferences? Xia Dong pretended to be unhappy and turned her head. It's fine if you don't want to help me. Why are you saying so much? Bei Yun smiled bitterly. When did I say that I won't help you? I'm just worried. Xia Dong looked serious. Do you think it's possible between Bei Han and me? I've never thought of having feelings for him. Bei Yun raised his hand in surrender and poked her arm with his elbow. Okay. I believe you. Don't be angry. I'll tell you everything. Xia Dong snorted and deliberately pretended to be pretentious. But I don't want to hear it anymore. Don't. I really want to confide in you. Can you be kind and listen to me about my brother's interests and hobbies? Bei Yun leaned in front of her and looked at her pitifully with his long and narrow foxy eyes. Xia Dong held back his laughter. All right then. Since you're so enthusiastic, I'll reluctantly listen to you. Bai Liyun's eyes were full of smiles. He touched his delicate chin and said, Don't be fooled by my brother's cold and aloof appearance. He is a sports expert. Racing and riding are child's play to him. Xia Dong leaned on the armrest of the sofa and asked tentatively, since he likes sports so much, does he also like to climb mountains and explore things? Bei Yun rubbed her soft hair. You're right. I heard that when he was 16, he lived alone on a deserted island with a backpack for a month. My grandmother and aunt were almost scared to death. Xia Dong frowned. An adventure on a deserted island? It was too difficult to carry out. I heard that he's become interested in plants again recently. Bei Yun's lips curved into a sarcastic smile. Grandma and Grandpa have always been proud of him. He's really good. He's been my role model since I was young. Xia Dong keenly sensed the loneliness in his tone. She secretly held his hand. Fox, you're very good too. Bei Yun was stunned. Then, the corners of his eyes curved and he smiled. This was the first time that someone praised Bei Han while seeing his excellence. Suddenly, Bai Liyun raised his eyebrows and mischievously dragged Xia Dong, who was completely unprepared, to the ground. The two of them rolled around on the soft and thick carpet. Fox, you, before Xia Dong could finish speaking, Bei Yun had already pulled her into his arms. He rubbed his chin against her soft hair and said with a smile, Xia, you really make me happy. Your hand. Xia Dong gritted her teeth. Bai Liyun lowered his head and found that his large hand had precisely pressed against a certain someone's chest. Ahem, it was a habit. Xia Dong was very angry. She had forgotten that someone was a perverted fox. Bailey Yun calmly withdrew his hand and flipped his messy blonde hair. There was a confused expression on his handsome face. What just happened? Xia Dong wanted to pounce on him and bite him to death. Forget it, I'll just kill him with my eyes. Under her extremely lethal gaze, Bai Liyun was defeated. He coughed and generously opened his arms. What happened just now was purely an accident. Why don't you touch me back? Get lost. Bai Liyun brushed the hair in front of his forehead and smiled frivolously. You're the one who didn't want it. Don't regret it, there are so many people lining up to touch it. I didn't even give them a chance. Xia Dong was speechless. Although Xia Dong was very angry that her chest had been attacked, she had gained a lot of useful information. When she found out that Bailey Han had been interested in plants recently, she didn't sleep in the middle of the night and searched for a lot of information. She came up with a detailed plan to steal the seeds. The next day, Bailey Han received an email from a geographical magazine. It said that an extremely rare orchid had been found in a forest. The email even included photos of the orchid and the scenery of the forest. It just so happened that he didn't have any plans for the weekend. Bailey Han was also very interested in orchids, so he decided to go to the forest to investigate. Chapter 73. The veins on Bailey Han's forehead began to throb. He gritted his teeth and squeezed out a few words, "Aren't you fine now?" "I'm fine now, but after you leave, I might meet a psychopathic murderer or a serial killer. I might even meet a beast that comes down the mountain to hunt for food." Xia Dong grabbed his arm and refused to let go. "You're thinking too much." Bailey Han tried hard to suppress the urge to throw her away, his temples throbbing. "Boo-hoo. Bailey Han, I beg you, don't leave me, okay? I'm so scared." Seeing that the first move didn't work, Xia Dong changed to another one. She pinched his but hard, and tears fell from her big wet eyes. Her butterfly wing-like eyelashes trembled slightly. She bit her red lips and her tear-stained face seemed to be telling him how cruel he was. He knew that she was acting, but his heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. Damn it, this woman could always easily control his emotions. Bailey Han angrily punched the steering wheel, his deep voice mixed with anger. "Get in the car." Xia Dong smiled through her tears and flattered, "I knew that you wouldn't leave me behind." "Bailey Han, you're really a good person." Bailey Han snorted and ignored her. She didn't mind at all and showed a bright smile. She cheerfully opened the car door and sat beside him, chattering about her tragic experience. "Yesterday, I received an email from the Geographic magazine saying that they found a precious orchid in Qixia Mountain, so I wanted to explore the treasure. I didn't expect the car to break down here. I called the towing company, but they said that it would take more than an hour to get here." Bailey Han's face was fierce and he didn't say a word. She seemed to have thought of something and said with a smile, "But don't worry, I won't make you wait with me for an hour. I've already talked to them, and they'll tow my car away directly." Bailey Han still ignored her. The corners of his lips were tightly pressed together as he started the car. Xia Dong knew that he was still angry, so she tactfully shut her mouth. The air pressure in the car was low. The car drove very fast. After driving for nearly 2 hours, they finally arrived at their destination. Qixia Mountain was a tourist area. It had one main peak and 2 side peaks. The main peak was well developed for tourism, while the 2 side peaks did not have large-scale tourism. They maintained a relatively primitive state. Only a few backpackers and explorers went there. Bailey Han chose one of the side peaks and parked the car in the parking lot at the foot of the mountain. He looked at Xia Dong expressionlessly. "Go to the main peak from here by yourself." Xia Dong shrugged. "There are so many tourists on the main peak. It's crowded and noisy. I'm sure I won't be able to find any orchids. I'll go to the side peak too." Bailey Han said coldly, "Don't drag me down." She grinned. "Don't look down on me. I'm not that incompetent." He raised his eyebrows and did not say anything else. He took out his backpack from the trunk and led the way into the mountain. Xia Dong hurriedly took out her backpack from the back seat and followed him. Orchids usually grew on the walls of deep mountains and deep valleys. They were places where people rarely went. Bailey Han was obviously very familiar with the growing habits of orchids. He purposely chose secluded paths. Actually, he still had a dark thought in his heart. He wanted to force Xia Dong to give up on his own accord and stop following him. However, during the more than an hour of climbing, Xia Dong did not even make a sound. She gritted her teeth and followed behind him. Her beautiful cheeks were red and her forehead was covered with sweat. The huge backpack on her back seemed to be about to crush her, but she did not complain about being tired. Bailey Han looked back and saw her like this. He could not help but slow down and handed her a bottle of water with a sullen face. "Thank you." She took the bottle of water and smiled brightly. She was more charming than a spring flower, but her cheeks were abnormally red. Bailey Han could not help but look even worse. Soon, it was evening. Bailey Han chose a flat lawn, took out a tent from his backpack and set it up quickly. Xia Dong's ability to do things was much worse. After fiddling for a long time, the tent was still a ball of cloth. Bailey Han frowned and took the tools from her hand. "Thank you." She scratched her hair and volunteered. "I'll start the fire and prepare dinner." She gathered some dry wood and started the fire. She took out 5 to 6 food boxes from her backpack and a tablecloth. She spread the food boxes on the grass, opened them, and put them on the tablecloth. There were drumsticks, lamb chops, beef steak, pork chop, chicken fillet, and fruit and vegetable salad. "I made these myself. Try them." She eagerly handed him a pair of sanitary chopsticks. Bailey Han picked up the chopsticks and put a piece of chicken fillet into his mouth. "How is it?" She looked at him with sparkling eyes full of expectation. He hesitated for a moment. "It's not bad. It was actually very delicious." She smiled brightly. "That's good. Wait a moment. I also brought sour pear soup." She searched in her backpack for a long time and took out a thermos flask. She poured a full cup and carefully put it in front of him. She smiled brightly. "It's sour. It's cooling and appetizing. Drink more." Her smile was so warm that it made Bailey Han feel a little nervous. He hesitated for a moment and took the cup. She looked at him expectantly and shouted in her heart, "Drink it, drink it." She had added something to the sour pear soup. Bailey Han brought the cup of water to his lips. Just as he was about to drink it, he heard a huff and puff, accompanied by the sound of running at high speed. He raised his head abruptly and saw a black wild boar dashing towards them at high speed. He jumped up from the ground reflexively and threw away the cup in his hand. He grabbed Xia Dong's wrist and retreated. Xia Dong was anxious to protect the thermos flask. She reached out to grab it, but Bailey Han pulled her over and scolded her loudly, "Why are you still caring about that? Hurry up and leave." The moment he pulled her away, the wild boar crazily rushed to where they were sitting and trampled the food all over the place. Xia Dong looked at the thermos flask with pain. The bastard wild boar was still using its long mouth to dig into the sour pear soup, making slurping sounds as it drank. "You bastard, I'm going to kill you." Xia Dong was filled with grief and indignation. She picked up a wooden stick as thick as her wrist and rushed forward to beat the boar's head. The boar's eyes were red with anger, and it struggled with her. Bailey Han was stunned by her sudden outburst. When he came back to his senses, the wild boar was already rolling on the ground and howling. "I'll beat you to death, bastard. How dare you steal my food and drink?" Xia Dong picked up the wooden stick and scolded it as she hit it. Sob, sob. She had planned this with great difficulty. She had added something to the sour pear soup. It was all drunk by this pig head. Ow, ow, ow. The wild boar was in pain from the beating. It struggled to roll up from the ground and fiercely charged towards Xia Dong. Be careful. Bailey Han suddenly rushed up and hugged Xia Dong as they quickly dodged the wild boar's attack. He quickly pulled out a dagger from between his legs, and when the wild boar rushed up again, he fiercely stabbed it into its neck. Blood suddenly flew out and splattered all over Xia Dong's face and body. With one stab, the wild boar fell to the ground with a bang and could not move. Xia Dong's heart was beating rapidly. She trembled as she wiped the blood from her face. Her eyes rolled back and she fell into Bailey Han's arms. Hey! What are you playing at now? Bailey Han shook her body. It was soft and there was no reaction. This time, he became anxious. She had really fainted. With a sigh, he accepted his fate and carried her into his tent. He put her on the bed, wet a towel with mineral water, and wiped the blood off her face. His fingers carelessly slid across her cheeks, and he couldn't help but think of what happened on the deserted island a month ago. His lips curled into a helpless arc. It was as if she was his nemesis, and as long as he was with her, bad luck would happen. Xia Dong's body temperature was abnormally high. Her face was red and her lips were chapped. Bailey Han guessed that she had a heatstroke. He took out the medicine bottle he had brought with him and poured some water for her to take the medicine. After calling her for more than 10 minutes, she finally opened her eyes in a daze. You have a heatstroke. Take the medicine. Bailey Han placed a pillow behind her. Since you're not feeling well, why didn't you say so earlier? She took the medicine in a daze. Her eyes were still a little dazed, as if she did not understand what he was saying. Bailey Han sighed and brushed the messy hair on her face behind her ear. Take this medicine every 3 hours. You should rest first. I'll call you later. With his help, she lay down again. Only then did she sober up a little. Her eyes were watery as she said softly, I'm sorry. I was afraid that you would say that I'm a burden to you and leave me alone. In the end, I'm still a burden to you. Her eyes were pitiful and filled with pleading and hope. He could not help but pinch the space between his eyebrows. Rest first. Don't think about anything else. She replied with a geek-eye, oh, and closed her eyes. Bailey Han sat beside her and pulled the blanket for her. He leaned against the tent and did not know how much time had passed. His eyelids were heavy and he almost fell asleep. He pinched the back of his hand to wake himself up. He checked the time on the alarm and then leaned against the tent to doze off. Ah, a shrill scream. Bailey Han was so shocked that he was no longer sleepy. What's wrong? Wild boars. There are so many wild boars. They want to kill me. Xia Dong threw herself into Bailey Han's arms. Her whole body was trembling. She was weak and frightened. Bailey Han wanted to push her away, but when he saw her panic-stricken face, he stretched out his hand and slowly placed it on her head. He gently stroked her hair. Don't be afraid. I've already killed it. Even if there are 10 or 100 more, I'll still kill them all. There was no reply. It turned out that she had fallen asleep again. Bailey Han gently helped her lie down. He touched her forehead and found that it was still a little hot. Xia Dong, do you want some water? Xia Dong impatiently turned over and slept soundly. There was space on the bed. Bailey Han simply sat beside her and leaned against her to rest. Just as he was about to fall asleep, Xia Dong suddenly sat up beside him and screamed, they're coming again. There are so many wild boars. Xia Dong, wake up. Bailey Han grabbed her arm to prevent her from falling. Sob sob, it's so scary. Xia Dong suddenly threw herself into his arms and sobbed. Bailey Han frowned and lowered his head to look at her. Her eyes were tightly shut and there were still tears on her cheeks. Her breathing was a little rapid and she looked like she was in pain. He touched her head. So it was a nightmare. He wanted to help her lie down, but she hugged him too tightly and he couldn't pull her away. Forget it. Just lie down like this. She hugged him like this and fell asleep again. He also fell asleep very quickly until the sound of the alarm woke him up. Bailey Han looked at Xia Dong. She hadn't woken up yet. He gently shook her awake and fed her the medicine. Welfare, Xinwu 799. Chapter 74. That night, Bailey Han fed her medicine twice. When she woke up in the morning, he checked her temperature and pulse and found that she had returned to normal. Xia Dong also woke up. She said in a hoarse voice, "I'm sorry for causing you trouble. You already apologized last night. If you get better quickly and can walk down the mountain on your own, that would be the best way to repay me." Bailey Han tried his best to be gentle, as if nothing had happened between them. He poured a glass of water for her. "You just recovered from your fever. Drink more water." "Thank you." Xia Dong held his hand and drank the water quickly. "Do you want more?" "No, thank you. Rest first." He put down the glass and turned to walk out of the tent. Xia Dong lay back on the bed. She didn't feel sleepy at all. She really had a heatstroke and fainted last night, but she had faked the nightmares. She suddenly felt a little guilty. She knew that Bailey Han took good care of her, and his attitude towards her had improved a lot. Everything was going according to her expectations. She pulled the blanket over her head and said very softly, "Bailey Han, I'm sorry." She didn't know how much time had passed when she heard footsteps coming in. She quickly closed her eyes and pretended to be asleep. Someone pulled away the blanket covering her head and a cold hand touched her forehead. Her eyelashes trembled. She heard Bailey Han's deep voice. "I know you're awake. Get up and eat something." She opened her eyes and saw Bailey Han sitting beside her with a lunchbox in his hand. She quickly sat up and he handed the lunchbox to her. The lunchbox was filled with fruit. There were sliced apples, pears, and red cherry tomatoes. The bright colors made her stomach growl. He coughed. "The wild boar knocked everything over. I only found this. It's good enough to have these." Xia Dong picked up a cherry tomato and fed it to his mouth. She smiled contentedly. "Here, thank you for saving my life." His lips curled into a smile as he opened his mouth. She placed the cherry tomato into his mouth. After breakfast, they packed up the tent and luggage. Bailey Han looked at Xia Dong. "How is it? Can you go down the mountain?" Xia Dong grinned, revealing 8 little white teeth. She patted her chest. "Hey, don't worry. I'm all better. I can go up the mountain to fight a tiger." "There's no need to fight a tiger." Bailey Han smiled and responded to her joke for the first time. "If we meet a wild boar again, I'm counting on you to save the beauty to save the hero." Thinking of her heroic act last night, Bailey Han's smile. She covered her face in shame. "It was because I had a heatstroke yesterday that I didn't perform well. Otherwise, you wouldn't have saved my life." Bailey Han shook his head as a smile appeared in his eyes. The two walked down the mountain. Xia Dong was slightly apologetic. "It's all because of me. You came here for nothing and didn't find the orchids." Bailey Han didn't care. "I didn't have any hope. I just came out to relax." Xia Dong walked at the back and the corners of his lips curled up. Actually, Bailey Han wasn't that annoying. He had a good heart. She was distracted and didn't pay attention to her feet. She slipped and stumbled. Bailey Han heard the noise and quickly turned around to support her. He couldn't help but complain. "Why are you so careless?" She touched her nose embarrassedly. "Sorry, I didn't do it on purpose." His mouth twitched. "Be careful." After walking for more than 2 hours, they finally reached the bottom of the mountain. Xia Dong was so tired that she was panting. Bailey Han drove her to a restaurant in the tourist area as if nothing had happened. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, they rested for a while. It was already 3 in the afternoon. As the car drove towards the city, Xia Dong was a little absent-minded. She kept thinking about how to make use of this rare opportunity. Finally, she realized that the opportunity had come. Through the car window, she saw a hotel standing on the side of the road. She covered her mouth and retched. Bailey Han stopped the car. "What's wrong? Where do you feel uncomfortable?" "I feel like vomiting. Maybe I ate something wrong. Don't follow me." Xia Dong covered her mouth, opened the car door and ran out. She bent over and vomited exaggeratedly on the road. When she returned to the car, her face was pale. Bailey Han handed her a bottle of water to rinse her mouth. "Hold on for another 2 hours. We'll be in the city soon." Xia Dong leaned against the seat weakly. "I feel so uncomfortable. I can't hold on until we get back to the city." He frowned. "Then what should we do?" She raised her arm and pointed at the hotel not far away. "I want to rest there. Please take me there. If you're in a hurry, you can go back to the city first. I can't take up any more of your time. I'll take a taxi back to the city myself." Bailey Han pinched the space between his eyebrows. It was already late. By the time she had rested enough, it would be almost evening. At that time, it would be difficult to take a taxi back to the city. He was not a philanthropist and did not have the kindness to sympathize with others. However, he still could not leave her here. Since he knew that she was trouble, he should not have taken her in from the beginning. He should not have abandoned her halfway. This was Bailey Han's principle. In the hotel, Bailey Han was wearing a bathrobe. His hair was wet as he leaned against the sofa and made a phone call. Xia Dong knocked on his door. "What's the matter?" She stood at the door with a tired look on her face. "Can I borrow your bathroom? The shower in my room is broken." He nodded. "Thank you." When Xia Dong passed by the table, she quietly put the thing in her hand into his glass of water. The white pill fell into the water and quickly turned into small bubbles and disappeared. The sound of water splashing came from the bathroom. The frosted glass door blurred her graceful figure. Bailey Han finished his phone call and saw this scene. His eyes darkened and he picked up the glass of water on the table and drank it in one gulp. The sound of water splashing continued. His body was getting hotter and hotter. His throat was dry and thirsty. He really wanted something to moisturize his throat. He poured another glass of water and drank it in one gulp. However, it was far from enough to relieve his hunger and thirst. The sound of water stopped and the bathroom door opened. Xia Dong walked out in a low-cut spaghetti strap dress. Her snow-white skin was slightly red from the steam, like fine silk. She didn't wear any underwear. Her perfect breasts stood proudly and her slender waist swayed slightly. Her beautiful features were charming as she walked in front of him. Her gaze inadvertently swept across the empty glass of water. Her lips curled into a faint smile. "You must not have rested well because you took care of me last night. I won't disturb your rest. Good night." She was only 2 steps away from him. He could clearly smell the fragrance of lavender on her body. That intoxicating fragrance was familiar, as if he had smelled it somewhere before. His body became hotter. Bailey Han's gaze became deep. His gaze involuntarily fell on her rosy lips. Her lips were very charming, like a plump rose. They must taste good. He subconsciously licked his parched lips. A certain desire rose in his body. It was as if there was a ball of fire burning in his lower abdomen, burning his entire body. This feeling was not unfamiliar. Damn it, he actually had a reaction to this woman. Bailey Han cursed in a low voice. He patted his head and rushed into the bathroom, trying to sober himself up with cold water. "Bailey Han, what's wrong with you?" Xia Dong knew that the aphrodisiac in the glass and the aphrodisiac on his body had taken effect. She deliberately followed him. When the cold water washed over his body, it did indeed feel a lot more comfortable. However, the burning desire in his body was not alleviated. His deep eyes turned a strange red because of lust and desire, giving his beautiful face a kind of wild charm. His handsome features were gloomy and cold. The cold water splashed on his broad chest, making him look extremely sexy. Xia Dong grabbed his arm. "Bailey Han, are you having a fever? It's so hot. Get out." When her cold hands landed on his skin, he felt as if he had been electrocuted. He tried to suppress the urge and growled at her, "Get out. I'm not leaving. You're sick. How can I leave?" Xia Dong wrapped her arms around his waist. "Don't force yourself. I'll help you out. Go away." He wanted to shake her off, but she hugged him very tightly. Her body skillfully rubbed against his back. He could clearly feel her softness. He groaned in pain and his stiff body tensed up. All the blood in his body seemed to have gathered in his lower abdomen. Beads of sweat slid down his forehead, past his throbbing Adam's apple and across his muscular chest. Bailey Han felt as if his body was about to explode. He desperately wanted to release himself. "Bailey Han, I'm so hot. Let's go out." In the enclosed space, the atmosphere was getting more and more oppressive. Xia Dong's gentle voice teased Bailey Han's nerves. Her hands caressed his chest and muscles restlessly, and her lips wandered around his back. Her teasing was like lighting a match. The oppressive atmosphere was suddenly ignited. Bailey Han suddenly turned around and hugged her tightly. He kissed her cheeks frantically. He could no longer control his rationality. His Adam's apple moved up and down uncomfortably. The sweat on his forehead dripped onto her skin. There was only one thought in his mind. He wanted her. He wanted her so much that he was going crazy. Her thin clothes had been unknowingly thrown on the floor. Bailey Han suddenly picked her up and placed her on the sink. Their hot bodies were tightly pressed together. He lifted her chin with one hand and kissed her greedily. His other hand spread her legs. The scorching kiss followed her delicate collarbone and went down to her buds. He carefully ground and tasted them as if he had found a precious treasure. Xia Dong's body trembled violently. Her white jade-like feet tightened. A seductive whimper overflowed from her lips. Her hands involuntarily wrapped around his shoulders. Feeling that the person beneath him had melted into a puddle of spring water, he couldn't hold it in any longer. He couldn't wait any longer and charged straight in. It was so painful that Xia Dong's nails dug into his back, leaving bloody marks on his skin. The pain quickly passed, and she felt waves of numbness. Her lips were sealed, and all her moans were blocked. Her body and lower body collided fiercely with each other, and soon, it was as if fireworks had been set off in her mind, and she felt dizzy from the convulsions. However, Bailey Han didn't feel tired at all. He was still fiercely charging. The sink was made of marble and was very smooth. However, her legs were hanging and it was already uncomfortable. Especially when he used force, her body was forced to lean against the wall. Her back was in pain from the friction. "It hurts, my back hurts. Let's go back to the room." "Ah." She frowned and bit his shoulder. Welfare, Xinwu 799. Chapter 75. Bailey Han had vented once. Although he wasn't fully awake yet, when he heard those lingering pleas, he felt his heart being aroused and felt a sense of pity. He carried her down from the table. Their bodies were still pressed together as he carried her into the room. With every step he took, he went in deeper. After every few steps, he would fiercely thrust into her. Just as he reached the bedside, she had already bitten his neck to vent her desires. Bailey Han tossed and turned until dawn before he let her go to sleep. Before Xia Dong fell asleep, her last thought was that men who took aphrodisiacs were really scary. She could never use that kind of thing again. When Xia Dong woke up, she found herself naked in the arms of the equally naked Bailey Han. She could even feel something pressing against her waist. She was not an ignorant girl. Of course, she knew that it was a man's natural reaction in the morning. Her cheeks suddenly became hot. She was very glad that he was in a deep sleep and gave her another chance to escape. Xia Dong took a pillow and stuffed it into Bailey Han's arms to replace her. She quietly pulled out, dragged her sore body, cleaned up the battlefield, and escaped as fast as she could. Bailey Han closed his eyes and felt the softness in his arms. He touched it with his hand and suddenly sat up. He frowned and threw the pillow away. His eyes fell on the empty bed next to him. Although the bed was very clean, as if there had never been another person, he was very sure that he had slept with that woman last night. He angrily punched the bedside table in disgust. His endurance had always been amazing. Even when he had sex with Yun Qian several times, he could control himself at the last moment. He did not understand why he had fallen into the hands of Xia Dong. Countless thoughts flooded his mind. In the end, the three choices became clearer and clearer. 1. Kill her to prevent future trouble. 2. Be responsible for her. 3. Pretend that nothing had happened and continue to love Su Yunqian. When Bailey Han returned to the city, he did not go to the office. Instead, he went home, had a shower, changed his clothes and called Lu Zihao to deliver some documents to his home. She looked at the document in her hand, but the three choices lingered in her mind. She took a sip of tea in annoyance and searched for Xia Dong's number on her phone. He called her cell phone, but it was turned off. When he called her office, her assistant, Lilith, answered. The chief editor went to Milan to visit a fashion exhibition co-organized by famous fashion designers. Bailey Han pinched his eyebrows. When will she be back? Lilith looked at Xia Dong, who was sitting calmly in the office chair, and replied, about a week. Why does it take a week? Because after the exhibition in Milan, the chief editor still has to go to the fashion show in Paris. After that, she still has to go to London, Pa. Bailey Han angrily threw the phone away. When she heard the loud bang, Lilith was so frightened that she trembled. She carefully put the phone away. Chief editor, is this a good idea? If Bailey Han found out that they were lying through their teeth, they would die a horrible death. No, the entire magazine would be buried with them. Xia Dong was very calm. It's okay, because I will immediately arrange for a business trip according to the route you mentioned. Bailey Han frowned. He was annoyed with his temper just now. After he calmed down, he realized that Lilith was probably just brushing him off. How could it be so coincidental that she would be on a business trip for such a long time? He paused for a moment and directly called the director of Glamour magazine. President Bailey, hello. Xia Dong is on a business trip. Why didn't I know about it? Oh, no, I mean, she is still at the office. Still at the office? Woman, you are dead meat. Bailey Han slowly hung up the phone. The corner of his lips raised into a sinister arc. After Xia Dong got the approval from the director, she heard him muttering curiously, Xia Dong, the president of Xinghao Group just called and asked if you were on a business trip. Strange, how did he know that you are going abroad for a business trip? Xia Dong was suddenly petrified. She had a bad premonition. This premonition lasted until she got off work. When she walked out of the office building, she planned to go home as soon as possible and then escape abroad. She ran to the parking lot and just as she took out her car keys, a Maybach stopped in front of her with a screech. Bailey Han got out of the car expressionlessly, lifted her up and threw her into the back seat without saying a word. Bailey Han, what are you doing? Before Xia Dong had time to get up from the back seat, the Maybach had already rushed out of the parking lot at the speed of a rocket. She pounced on the car window and was pushed back to the back seat by him. His handsome face was as cold as iron. His deep eyes were rolling with anger, but his voice was very calm. You better be honest with me. Otherwise, I don't mind throwing you to South America to feed the mermaids. Xia Dong knew that she had fallen into his hands. Even if she fought hard, she couldn't escape, so she calmed down. Where are you going to take me? A place where we can talk. He didn't look at her again. Obviously, he didn't want to talk to her anymore. Bailey Han took her to a high-end private clubhouse. He led her into a secluded suite that had a living room, a dining room, and a comfortable bedroom. Xia Dong sat on the sofa and he sat opposite her. Xia Dong waited for him to speak. After waiting for almost 10 minutes, the godfather still didn't speak. Xia Dong had nothing better to do. She poured a cup of tea and pushed it in front of him. Then, she poured another cup for herself. She coughed. If you have something to say, you can say it now. Bailey Han's face was still very ugly. His voice was still cold. Regarding what happened last night, I have 3 choices. 1. To kill you to prevent future trouble. He paused and looked at her meaningfully. She was shocked and secretly looked in the direction of the escape. What are the other 2 choices? 2. To be responsible for you. He gritted his teeth and was obviously very reluctant. 3. To pretend that nothing happened. She immediately raised her hand. I choose the 3rd choice. This choice coincides with my thoughts. Let's pretend that nothing happened. You go your way and I'll go mine. Bailey Han's face was even uglier. He thought that this woman had tricked him into bed so that she could marry him. He didn't expect her to say such words. When did he become so unattractive? Don't hesitate. Choose the 3rd choice. Don't worry, after I walk out of here, I'll forget everything that happened last night. I won't cause you any trouble. Xia Dong was so excited that her eyes were sparkling. She almost raised her hand and swore. Very well, it seems that we have reached a consensus. He leaned forward, his cold face carrying an undisguised murderous aura. His low voice was like that of a demon. Remember what you said at this moment. If you violate it in the slightest, I will tear you into pieces, including your 2 lovely nephews at home. You have to believe that I'm capable of doing what I say. He patted her cheek with his cold hand. After carefully wiping his fingers with a handkerchief, he threw the handkerchief into the bin. After he left, Xia Dong leaned against the sofa and breathed a sigh of relief. If he chose to kill her, she would definitely be buried here. In the following week, Xia Dong directly flew abroad for business. First, she went to Milan, then Paris. Because of the time difference, she always called her children in the middle of the night to say good morning. She didn't care about Bailey Han at all. Bailey Han suddenly felt that time had become very long. Although he was very busy with work, he would go home on time every day to eat with his son. Occasionally, he would accompany Su Yunxian to improve the relationship between her and his son. But at night, when he lay in bed to rest, he still felt that it wasn't fulfilling enough. He didn't know why. On this day, Bailey Han was drinking with a client at Charm. They had just signed a big order, and the client invited him to drink to celebrate their happy cooperation. Bailey Han saw Bailey Yun and Xiao Tianxing huddled together. He didn't know what they were talking about, but they were laughing and chatting. He said a few words to the client and walked over to Bailey Yun. He pulled out a chair and sat down. What are you talking about? You look so happy. I can hear your laughter from over there. Bailey Yun laughed heartily and raised his arm to greet him. Hi, brother. We were talking about Xia Xia. Chapter 76. For some reason, Bailey Han's mood became extremely bad. This feeling was similar to when you picked up a puppy on the street and despised it for being ugly. You finally started to get familiar with it and started to think that its ugliness was actually acceptable, but in the end, it ran away with its previous owner. The most annoying thing was that it had more than one previous owner. Bailey Han wanted to roar and throw a punch, but he quickly rejected his emotions. He was conflicted and walked back to the client with a sullen face. The client thought that he had angered him and quickly called two beautiful miss to accompany him. Bailey Han looked at the girls around him and became more and more irritated. He suppressed himself and found an excuse to leave. Sitting in the car, Bailey Han seemed to be possessed as he pressed a string of numbers. Xia Dong had just taken a nap when her phone rang. She squinted her eyes and reached for her phone. She asked in a half-awake state, "Hello, who is this?" Hearing her familiar voice, Bailey Han suddenly woke up. Damn it, he must be crazy. He decisively hung up the phone and started the car. When he returned to the villa, the lights in the bedroom were on. Su Yunxian was lying on his spacious bed. The thin blanket just covered her chest, revealing a large area of snow-white skin. He walked to the bed and gently pulled the blanket over her body. She seemed to be awakened and opened her sleepy eyes. Her voice was lazy and charming. "Han, you're back." He helped her sit up. "Why didn't you tell me that you were coming over?" She smiled and snuggled into his arms. "I called you in the evening. You said that you were going to meet a client, so I didn't want to disturb you." "Have you had dinner?" "Yes, I had dinner with Xiao Yi. He even told me about the interesting things that happened in the kindergarten." He patted her head. "This is a good sign. Xiao Yi seems to have started to accept you." She drew circles on his chest with her slender fingers and whispered suggestively, "What about you? When do you plan to accept me wholeheartedly?" Bailey Han caught her fingers. "Stop playing. It's getting late. Rest early, okay?" He caressed her cheek and kissed her forehead gently before getting up and entering the bathroom. Su Yunxian took out his phone from his jacket and opened the call log. When she saw Xia Dong's name, her fingers tightened and her eyes were filled with coldness. Bailey Han came out of the shower and saw the person curled up on the bed with her back facing him. He thought that she had already fallen asleep, so he gently lay beside her. However, she hugged him. Her hands caressed his body, sliding from his chest to his waist. Her lips kissed his, gently sucking on his lips. In his arms, she twisted her waist seductively, blooming with charm, seductive moans, teasing his nerves. However, he didn't feel anything. His deep eyes were as cold as ever. Her teasing had no effect at all. He was so calm that it made her feel cold. She sobbed. "Why is it like this? Han, am I not attractive to you at all?" He pinched his eyebrows. "Yunxian, I'm already very tired. Han, I'm getting more and more desperate. Do you know that? We've been together for 6 years, but you've never touched me. Do you not like me, or is it because of other reasons?" She looked at him pitifully. "I'm very afraid. I'm afraid that I'll be old and won't be able to win your favor. When will you give me a promise?" In front of outsiders, she was a goddess. However, in front of him, she felt like a lowly servant who had been begging for her master's love. It had been 6 years. She no longer had the patience to endure it. Today, she would get an answer. "Yunxian, why would you have such thoughts? You know that I've always loved you." Bailey Han rubbed his forehead. He had a headache. "Let's not talk about this first, okay?" "No, I have to get an answer." Su Yunxian couldn't calm down when she thought of the call records in his phone. Last time at the racecourse, he and that B*TCH clearly had no interaction. Why did they suddenly resume contact? Bailey Han was not in a good mood. Being pestered by her, he became more and more irritable. Although there was no change in his expression, his tone became heavier. "I've already said that today is not the right time to talk about this. You sleep here. I'll go to the guest room." He got up and was about to leave when Su Yunxian stopped him. "No need. You don't have to leave. The one who should leave is me. Han, I think we should think about it calmly. What exactly do we want?" "Yunxian, are you forcing me?" Bailey Han's face darkened. He didn't like to be held by the neck, even if it was the person he liked. She turned her back to him and elegantly dressed. After she was dressed neatly, she tiptoed and kissed him on the cheek. She said softly, "Han, I'm not forcing you. I just want you to think about it clearly. How about a month? It's enough for us to think about this relationship. Good night." She walked out of his room with her head held high like a proud queen. She didn't walk very fast. She thought that he would chase after her, just like when they quarreled before. However, she still didn't see him until she got the car. In the driver's seat, Su Yunqian could no longer maintain the indifference on her face. She was a little annoyed, a little angry, and a little sad, but more than that, there was hatred. 5 years ago, if that bitch hadn't appeared and ruined everything, she would have become Bailey's wife and given birth to the heir of the Bailey family. She wouldn't have to compromise to maintain their relationship like now. She clenched the steering wheel with both hands, and a pair of eyes full of hatred and viciousness were reflected in the rearview mirror. "Xia Dong, I don't care who is behind you. In short, we are irreconcilable." At this moment, Xia Dong, who was far away in London, had just woken up from her afternoon nap. She rubbed her messy hair and got out of bed. Patting her groggy head, she remembered that she had received a silent phone call in her sleep. Worried that it had something to do with the children, she quickly checked the call log. Bailey Han. Strange, why did he call? Did he press the wrong number? Yes, that must be it. Xia Dong didn't take the call to heart at all. After washing up, she began to pack her luggage in preparation for the fashion show that night. Just as she was holding a set of clothes in front of her and hesitating, her cell phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number that looked like a public phone. She said in fluent English, "Hello, I'm Xia Dong. May I know who is calling?" The other party spoke in fluent English in a low and magnetic voice. "Beautiful miss, please open the window. I have a surprise for you." What was it? Why was he being so mysterious? Xia Dong held the cell phone in one hand and pushed open the window with the other. She saw a tall man walking out of a phone booth on the street below. The man was wearing a suit, a black trench coat, and a black gentleman's hat. His gaze was fixed on her. He slowly took off his hat, revealing an extraordinarily handsome face. His tall nose cast a perfect shadow under the sunlight, and his sexy thin lips curved into a cold smile. Xia Dong covered her mouth in disbelief. In the next second, she dashed downstairs and ran towards the man. The man opened his arms and hugged Xia Dong, who was running towards him, and twirled her around happily. Xia Dong laughed loudly, and the man laughed as well. After a long while, the man put her down. She punched his chest in annoyance and complained, "Brother Shen, you're so bad. You didn't even tell me you were coming." Mika Keto ruffled her hair, his obsidian eyes filled with undetectable affection. "If I told you in advance, would it still be a surprise?" Xia Dong wrinkled her delicate nose. All right. No matter what, you're right. Hurry up and tell me why you're in London. Aren't you in Rome?" "Of course it's because you're in London. I missed you so much that I flew over from Rome." He looked at her and smiled half-jokingly. She punched him unhappily. "Don't make fun of me. Be serious." He held her hand and led her upstairs with a gentle smile. "I'm serious. When you were in Milan, I planned to visit you. However, something came up at the last minute, so I flew over while you were still in Europe. I'm so touched. Brother Shen is still the best to me." Xia Dong rolled into his arms like a puppy and rubbed against him. "You're already a mother of 2, but you're still so young." Mika Keto ruffled her hair in amusement. "You're my big brother. I won't feel embarrassed if I have to rely on you for the rest of my life." Xia Dong smiled and hugged his arm. In her heart, he was her big brother. She could rely on him, act coquettishly, and complain to him. He was the most trustworthy person. She had always been grateful that there was such a person in this world who could let her throw away her disguise and simply be herself. I really don't know what to do with you. Mika Keto smiled, but his eyes were a little gloomy. Just a big brother. The gloominess disappeared in a flash. Looking at the little woman in his arms and giggling foolishly, he felt very happy. Even his voice was full of laughter. Are you hungry? I'll take you to eat something delicious. Okay, but let me make it clear first. I don't eat Western food. I've been eating Western food in Europe for a week. I don't want to smell Western food until next year. She made an exaggerated, disgusted expression, which made him laugh. You're exaggerating. According to what you said, people who study in Europe don't want to smell Western food for the rest of their lives. She held her forehead sadly. That's because they have a strong stomach, and I don't want to let my poor thin stomach suffer. Yes, Your Highness. Your night will definitely satisfy you. Mika Keto blinked and stretched out his right arm in front of her like a gentleman. She raised her chin and elegantly held his arm. The two of them walked side by side and smiled at each other. Mika Keto drove her to a small restaurant in Chinatown. Although the restaurant was in a very secluded place, the hall was full of people. Fortunately, Mika Keto had made a reservation in advance. Otherwise, they would have had to wait for a while. A waiter in a tang suit led them to their seats. Xia Dong exclaimed, "There are so many people here." Mika Keto smiled and said, "Yes, this restaurant makes the best Chinese food, so business has always been good." She rested her chin on her hand and asked curiously, "How did you find this place?" "I used to be in London. One of my men brought me here." Mika Keto helped her disinfect the bowls and chopsticks and placed them in front of her. Just then, a waiter walked over quickly with a large metal plate of spicy crabs. The spicy aroma of the red crabs made Xia Dong's mouth water. Come and see, Hengcha 866. Chapter 77. Slow down, be careful. It's hot. Mika Keto opened the crab, took out the crab meat, and placed it on the plate for her. Oh, it's delicious. Brother Shen, try it too. Xia Dong picked up a spicy shrimp that the waiter had just served and placed it on his plate. The crayfish was spicy, fragrant, and delicious. Xia Dong swallowed her belly and chewed until her face was covered in oil. Mika Keto took out a tissue and wiped the oil off her face. He had seen her embarrassed look too many times, so she didn't mind at all. She smiled foolishly and moved her face closer to him so that he could wipe it off. His movements were very gentle, and his eyes were full of smiles. How is it? Is it delicious? Yes. I finally got to eat something delicious. I'm so satisfied. Xia Dong's eyes were filled with tears, like a spoiled puppy. Mika Keto patted her head. What else do you want to eat? I'll order it for you. She rubbed her bulging belly. No need, I'm already full. Seeing the pile of shrimp and crab shells in front of him, she said embarrassedly, "The ones you peeled are all in my stomach. You didn't eat much yourself. This time, it's my turn to peel the shells for you." He stopped her. No need, I'm not hungry. If you're full, I'll send you back to the hotel. Mika Keto sent her back to the hotel and told her that he would be leaving at 8 o'clock in the evening. That time was when Xia Dong would be attending the fashion show. Do you have to be in such a hurry? We've only been together for 3 hours. Her reluctant expression made his mood very good. We'll meet again soon. When that time comes, I can accompany you for a long time. All right then. Be careful on the road, and even more so in Rome. Don't be seduced by beautiful girls. She hugged him reluctantly. Okay. His embrace was so warm, and his voice was as mellow as wine. She couldn't help but be intoxicated. He hadn't left yet, but she was already missing him. She stood in front of the window and watched him go downstairs. She stood downstairs and waved goodbye. She got into the car and drove to the airport. The little girl's temperament slowly calmed down. She took a long breath and raised her arm again. Cheer up, today is also a beautiful day. She picked up the clothes piled on the bed and compared them one by one. In the end, she chose an evening gown that was stylish and did not lose her character. After changing her clothes and putting on her makeup, she once again looked like the calm and capable chief editor Xia Dong in the mirror. The fashion show was very successful. Xia Dong dug up a lot of news materials and sorted them out overnight and sent them to Lilith. She was busy until early in the morning. When she looked at the time, she found that it was the time for the children to go to kindergarten. She quickly called them and gave them a morning kiss. Then she threw herself on the bed and fell asleep. She was very busy on this business trip and didn't have time to think about anything else. When she returned to China, she would find that she was once again being played by fate. Babies, Mommy, I'm back. Did you miss me? Xia Dong came to her aunt's house with bags of gifts and took the two children home. Xiao Guai was watching TV with Xia Yun in the living room. When she saw Xia Dong come back, she immediately cheered and pounced on her. Mommy, Mommy, I missed you so much. Mommy missed you so much too, Gigai. Xia Dong hugged her daughter's soft little body and kissed her madly. Xiao Bao wore a pair of black-framed glasses on the bridge of her nose. She carried a small laptop and walked out of the room in slippers. She looked up at her coolly. Mom, you still know to come back. I thought you were going to stay abroad and marry a foreigner. Baby, don't be angry. Mommy brought you a gift. Xia Dong squatted down and rubbed her son's head. She pulled out a beautifully packaged box from the pile of bags and handed it to him with a smile. Open it and see if you like it. Inside the box was a white, small Apple laptop. Xiao Bao's black grape-like eyes sparkled, but there was a disdainful smile on her lips. She raised her chin arrogantly. Mom, you abandoned us and went abroad for 10 whole days. Do you think you can bribe me with a laptop? Xia Dong rubbed her son's soft cheeks. Of course not. Mommy knows you're not that easy to bribe, so I'll be with you for the next 2 days off. You can do whatever you want. The company's leaders saw how hard it was for her to go on a business trip and gave her 2 days off. Okay. Mommy, I want to go to the amusement park, the aquarium, and the botanical garden. Xiao Guai counted on her fingers as she looked forward to the future. Mommy rarely took her out to play ever since they returned to the country. Mommy even secretly took her to the hospital and forbade her from telling her brother and aunt. She wanted to be like other children and go to interesting places to play, not the hospital that smelled of medicine. That won't do. Gigai, you can't be greedy. You can only go to 2 places in 2 days. Gigai and baby can each choose a place that you want to go to the most, okay? Then I can only choose one. Her pink cheeks collapsed in disappointment. Her large, watery eyes blinked as she reached out to tug at the corner of Xia Dong's shirt. Mommy, can we go to a few more places? I really want to go. Xia Dong comforted her patiently. No, you can't. You'll be very tired if you go to many places in one day. Xiao Bao blinked and stroked his sister's head. Gigai, Mommy just came back from a business trip. She's also very tired. We'll only have fun if we go to 1 place a day, right? Big brother will let you choose, so you can choose 2 places. Brother is right. We can't let Mommy be too tired. Xiao Guai's delicate little face broke into a smile. She said thoughtfully, then let's go to the botanical garden and the planetarium. I know brother has always wanted to go to the planetarium. Xia Dong was touched to see them being so considerate and giving in to each other. No matter how tired or hard it was outside, when she came home and saw their smiling faces, she felt that all the hard work was worth it. It was the first day they went to the botanical garden. The botanical garden in a city was very famous. There were thousands of plants and flowers in it, and it covered a very large area. Xiaodong took them to visit the desert vegetation, took a picture of them in front of the strange cactus, and then led them into the tropical botanical garden. There were many precious plants in the tropical botanical garden. The children had only seen them on TV. Walking into the rainforest, they seemed to have walked into another world. They opened their eyes curiously, looked here and there, and surrounded the staff member to listen to him explain the wonders of the plants. There were also many children around the staff member. They laughed excitedly, clapped their hands, and shouted. "Ah, that's great! This tree can even catch birds. That's so interesting. This tree can be shy. Look, touch it and it will dance." Xiao Guai tugged at Xiaodong's clothes. "Mommy, look. That's the tree that Uncle said can drive away mosquitoes. The leaves look so strange." Xiaodong looked in the direction of her daughter's finger. Xiaobao was not paying attention to them. All his attention was now attracted by the people outside the rainforest. The rainforest was built in a large glass room. Through the glass, Xiaobao saw Bailey Yi and Bailey Han standing together. They seemed to be talking about something. Bailey Han had a faint smile on his face, and Bailey Yi was also smiling happily. It was the first time Xiaobao had seen Bailey Yi smile so brightly. Xiaobao clenched his small fists tightly. His cheeks puffed up in anger, and he gritted his teeth. "Hey, Xiaobao, what's wrong with you? Are you feeling unwell? Why do you look like you're constipated?" Xiaodong turned around and saw that her son's face was ugly. She rubbed his head with concern. "Constipated?" Xiaobao's face became even uglier. He bent over angrily and ran out like a small cannonball. "Bao Bao, don't run around. Be careful." Seeing her son angrily rushing out without a word, Xiaodong became anxious. She quickly picked up her daughter and chased after him. Xiaobao felt very uncomfortable. He wanted to run out to get some fresh air, so he buried his head and rushed out desperately. His small body was like a cannonball, and he crashed into a pair of slender legs. Because the speed was too fast and the impact was too strong, he fell to the ground with a plop. He looked up and saw Bailey Han's handsome face. His anger immediately reached its peak. His small chest rose and fell rapidly, and his cheeks puffed up. He glared at him angrily. "You bumped into me." Bailey Han looked at the child sitting on the ground angrily. He was a little unhappy, but he still bent over to pull him up from the ground. Unexpectedly, the child avoided his hands and angrily shouted, "Go away, I don't want your fake kindness. Xia Xiaobao, I won't allow you to yell at my daddy." Bailey Yi realized that the person sitting on the ground shamelessly was his rival Xia Xiaobao, so he shouted back at him with a straight face. When Xiaodong rushed over with her daughter in her arms, she saw this awkward scene. Her forehead was sweating profusely. Then, her daughter subconsciously called out, which made her sweat even more. "Mommy, brother fell down." Xiaodong quickly covered her daughter's mouth and pulled up Xia Xiaobao, who was sitting on the ground, to find a hole to hide in. "Mommy?" Bailey Han looked at her expressionlessly, his gaze sharp and malicious. Xiaodong knew that her face must be very ugly now. "You heard wrong," she said, "Auntie." "Humph." Xia Xiaobao glared at Bailey Han angrily. "Uncle, not only are your eyes bad, your ears are also bad." "My little sister clearly said, Auntie." Bailey Han's eyes narrowed and emitted a dangerous light. He said word by word, "My eyes are very good, and my ears are even more sensitive. I can still distinguish the pronunciation of mommy and auntie." "That's right," Xiao Guai said, "Mommy, just now. I also heard it." Bailey Yi stood up and testified. Xiaodong facepalmed. "Bailey Han, what's the point of arguing about this? I'm not only the children's aunt, but also their godmother. What's wrong with them calling me mommy?" The veins on Bailey Han's forehead throbbed. Of course it was useful. This involved the children's biological parents. That's right, uncle. Don't think that I'll let you off just because you changed the topic. You bumped into me just now and hurt my little butt. My weak heart also suffered a great deal of damage. Moreover, if it wasn't treated in time, there might be repercussions. So, you have to compensate me. Xia Xiaobao stood in front of Xia Dong with her chest puffed out. Her beautiful eyes sparkled as she stared at Bai Han, diverting all his attention to herself. How do you want me to compensate you? Bai Han said indifferently. Awesome novel, Hengcha 866. Chapter 78. He raised his chin arrogantly and looked at him arrogantly. First of all, you have to take me to the hospital and compensate me for the checkup fees and a series of other expenses. However, seeing that we're all busy, you can just give me the money directly. You don't have to take me to the hospital. Secondly, you suddenly bumped into me and scared me, so you have to compensate me for the mental damage. Lastly, I'm injured and can't go to kindergarten, so you have to compensate me for the tuition. That's all. Look at how expensive and classy you're dressed. I'm sure you won't blame me for this little expense, okay? His last, "oh," was a long drawl, with a hint of mockery. Bai Han's eyebrows moved slightly. Bai Yi was stunned. Xia Dong couldn't help but hold her forehead. Xiao Guai blinked her big eyes and said worriedly, "Brother, are you hurt? Let's hurry to the hospital and see a doctor, okay?" Xia Xiaobao patted her head. "Gigai, after this uncle compensates me, I'll have money to go to the hospital." After that, he stretched out his hand in front of Bai Han. "So, uncle, hurry up and compensate me. Don't delay my treatment." Bai Yi finally came back to his senses and shouted angrily, "Xia Xiaobao, why don't you be a robber? What kind of robber logic is that? You were running too fast and bumped into my daddy. You're simply too shameless." Bai Yi's face was full of disgust. Xia Xiaobao grimaced. "Humph, the one who bumps into someone and avoids responsibility is the shameless one." Bai Yi's face was fierce. "I won't allow you to talk about my daddy like that. You, apologize to my daddy." "I won't." The two children glared at each other angrily, as if they wanted to kill each other with their eyes. It looked like they were about to pounce on each other and wrestle. "Xiao Yi," Bai Han narrowed his eyes and gestured for his son to step back. He looked at the arrogant brat in front of him and said, "Okay, I'll give it to you." Xia Dong looked at Bai Han in shock, and her jaw dropped. Bai Han took out a check from his pocket and filled it out. Bai Yi retorted indignantly, "Daddy, this is extortion. Don't give the money to the little swindler." Xia Xiaobao straightened his neck. "You're the liar. Your whole family are liars. Xiaobao, that's enough. Stop talking." Xia Dong was speechless. She pulled Xia Xiaobao away from Bai Han and said to Bai Han, "Mr. Bai, Xiaobao was just joking. Don't take it seriously. We'll leave first. You guys have fun." After she finished speaking, she carried her daughter and pulled her son to leave. However, Xiaobao grabbed her arm and refused to leave. Bai Han tore the check and handed it to Xiaobao. "Is this enough?" Xiaobao saw the 5 zeros on the check and looked like he had accepted it reluctantly. He snorted and said, "Not bad." After he finished speaking, he snatched the check from Bai Han's hand and stuffed it into his pocket. Then, he ran away with his short legs. Xia Dong helplessly looked at her son's back as he ran away. She said to Bai Han, "I'll get the money back and return it to you. I'll leave first." "There's no need for that." Bai Han calmly said these 4 words. He took his son's hand and left without looking at her again. Bai Yi was indignant. He didn't know why Daddy would give the money to Xia Xiaobao. Although he didn't care about the money, he was furious that Xia Xiaobao had succeeded in his scheme. Along the way, he kept a straight face and didn't say a word. Bailey Han patted his head. Don't be unhappy. Money is just a worldly possession. I know. I'm just indignant. Xia Xiaobao is too despicable. Bailey Yi was angry at the thought of his smug face. He's very smart. You two have similar personalities. Maybe you can become good friends. I won't become friends with him. He'll only go against me. Ever since he spilled the juice on Xiao Guai, he and Xia Xiaobao had become sworn enemies. The two of them wanted to bite each other to death. How could they become friends? Nothing is absolute. Daddy and your uncle Tianxing were sworn enemies when they were young, but we still became friends. Bailey Han tried to comfort his son. He knew that his son had always been a loner in school and didn't have many friends. He didn't want his son to have a lonely childhood like he did. Oh. Bailey Yi nodded as if he understood. When Xia Dong found Xia Xiaobao, he was flicking the check in his hand with his small white hand. A smug smile hung on his adorable face. Xia Dong knocked on his head angrily. Xia Xiaobao, you little money grubber. You're too brazen. Xiaobao's little face suddenly scrunched up. He covered his head with one hand and held the check in the other. Mom, you hit me too hard. I wonder if I'm your biological son. Xia Dong raised her eyebrows. What? Other than brazen, you dare to disown your own family? You unfilial son. I'm going to teach you a lesson. Hey, how am I unfilial? Mom, don't accuse me of anything. It's because I'm too filial that I blackmailed Bailey Han. He dared to abandon his mother and have a son with another woman. I'll make him bleed. Oh, right. He suddenly patted his little head. It was all his mother's fault for suddenly going on a business trip. He almost forgot about the matter of stealing seeds. Okay, I won't waste time with you. Let's forget about this matter. Don't have anything to do with Bailey Han in the future. Xia Dong stretched out her hand and said, give me the check. Why? I worked so hard to earn this. Xiao Bao quickly stuffed the check into his pocket and covered it tightly as if he was hiding a treasure. Of course I'm returning it to Bailey Han. No, I'd rather die than give in. Xia Xiaobao. It's no use calling my name. I can't hear you. Xia Xiaobao covered his ears and ran away. Xia Dong put her hand on her forehead. In the end, she failed to persuade her son to hand over the check. That night, when her son was asleep, she took the check out of his secret vault and wanted to find an opportunity to return it to Bailey Han. Early the next morning, the first thing Xiao Bao did when he woke up was to check his vault. He found that the check was gone. With messy hair and messy pajamas, he knocked loudly on Xia Dong's door. Xia Dong opened the door with a pair of sleepy eyes. He immediately put his hands on his hips and angrily protested, Mom, you actually went through my vault without permission. I'm going to sue you. Little brat, if you continue to make trouble, I'll use force to suppress you. Xia Dong was very angry when she woke up. She looked at her son with a dark face and said, it's just 100,000 yuan. You earn more than that in a year. Why are you so petty? Be careful that you won't grow tall. Xiao Bao bit his lip angrily and glared at her. This is not a matter of money. It's a matter of a man's dignity. Xia Dong was very sleepy. She directly ignored him and lay on the bed again. He was so angry that he kept yelling. In the end, Xiao Guai came forward and coaxed him. Next to the planetarium was an art gallery. Xia Dong came down from the planetarium with the children and saw a large group of people coming out of the art gallery. A few girls who looked like students were chatting. I heard that teacher Xia's wife is supporting him behind his back for this art exhibition. Needless to say, his wife is Miss Su of the Su group. She's rich and powerful. It's not easy to open an art exhibition. Shoo, don't talk so loudly. Be careful not to be heard by others. What's there to be afraid of? Everyone knows anyway. Xia Dong was expressionless. She held the children's hands and walked past them quietly. Mommy, I'm so thirsty. Xiao Guai stopped walking and shook Xia Dong's arm. Xia Dong looked around and saw a McDonald's about 20 meters away. She said, Gigai, hold on a little longer. We'll rest in McDonald's. Xiao Guai said obediently, yes, mommy, let's go. Xia Dong held the children's hands and was about to continue walking forward when a man's voice suddenly came from behind. Xia. Xia Dong's body froze. This voice was not familiar, but it was not unfamiliar either. She heard it once 5 years ago, but she remembered it deeply. She did not want to turn around. She held the two children's small hands tightly. Mommy, you're hurting me. Xiao Guai complained tearfully. I'm sorry, baby. Xia Dong quickly let go. Xia Zhencheng had already caught up with them. Just like 5 years ago, he was still wearing a high-class suit and his hair was combed neatly. The only difference was that there was white hair on his head and a few more wrinkles on his face. His face was full of shock and disbelief, and his eyes seemed to be covered with mist. Xia, it's really you. I thought I would never see you again in this life. His originally straight back was now slightly hunched, and his eyes were shining with agitation and pain. But, Mr. Xia, I don't want to see you at all. I don't want to see you again in this life. Every time Xia Dong thought of him, her heart would twitch in pain. She felt sorry for her mother. Even on the day her mother passed away, she still could not forget him. Xia Zhencheng was shocked by his daughter's words and staggered back a step. Xiao Guai looked at Xia Zhencheng curiously. This grandpa was so strange. Why was he standing in front of mommy? Xia Xiaobao's pure eyes were full of curiosity. What was the relationship between this grandpa and mommy? Why did mommy look so pained when she saw him? Why did she seem to hate him? Mr. Xia, please move aside. We're leaving, Xia Dong said expressionlessly. Xia Zhencheng could not bear to move aside. Ever since he saw her 5 years ago, he had not seen her again. He was afraid that if he moved aside this time, he would never see her again. Even if he could say a few more words to her, it would be good enough. He stammered, Xia, these two children are very cute. They look a lot like you. Are you married? Does your husband treat you well? They are my nephews. Xia Dong explained coldly with an impatient look on her face. Mr. Xia, I'm not interested in catching up with you. Please move aside. He said shamelessly, Xia, where do you live now? What's your phone number? I want to see you. She rejected him flatly. No need. You will disturb my current life. She no longer had the patience to continue pestering him. She pulled the two children and walked around him. Xia Zhencheng did not give up and grabbed her arm. Xia, Dad doesn't expect your forgiveness, but at least let Dad know how you and your mother are doing. Mom, Xia Dong could no longer maintain her composure. She flung his arm away and shouted angrily, don't mention Mom to me. She's already dead. She was killed by you. What right do you have to mention her? Xia Zhencheng, I hate you. I don't want to see you again for the rest of my life. After shouting, Xia Dong glared at him fiercely and pulled the two children away without looking back. Xia Zhencheng staggered back 2 steps, his face turning pale. Dead. Attention, Xinwu 799. Chapter 79. How did Xia Ling die? How could it be? No, I don't believe it. You must be lying to me. Xia, don't curse your mother. Your mother must be alive and well. Xia Zhencheng rushed forward and twisted Xia Dong's arm like a madman. Go away. No, it can't be. She can't be dead. Xia Zhencheng suffered a huge blow. His eyes were unfocused as he muttered to himself. Mother is already dead. She died because of you. Seeing him like this, Xia Dong felt very satisfied. He viciously stabbed at his wound again, but this time, he also stabbed his own wound. His heart ached so much that he couldn't suppress it. No. Xia Zhencheng's face was pale as he hugged his head. He squatted on the ground and sobbed softly, no. Tears unknowingly poured out. Xia Dong stubbornly touched her face and heartlessly walked away with the children. Xia Zhencheng hugged his head and cried bitterly. The passers-by watched curiously, but no one went forward to ask. In the crowd, there was a girl holding a bouquet of flowers standing there quietly. She saw the whole scene and stood there for a few seconds. She raised her hand and threw the bouquet into the trash can. The corner of her mouth twitched in disdain. Her daddy was really useless. He was crying on the street. She didn't want to go up and embarrass herself. Su Xingqian walked in the direction Xia Dong left. Her phone rang. It was the person in charge of the art exhibition. Miss Su, do you know where Mr. Xia is? I called him but he didn't pick up. Su Xingqian smiled sweetly. I don't know. I was going to congratulate Daddy on successfully opening the art exhibition, but there was a traffic jam on the way, so I didn't reach the art gallery. Okay, then I'll have to trouble you. Miss Su, I'll try to contact Mr. Xia again. No problem. She smiled and said, goodbye. Then she put away her phone. When she looked up, she saw Xia Dong bringing the two children into McDonald's. In McDonald's, Xia Dong ordered drinks and food for Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao and found a seat. He looked a little depressed. Xiao Bao sat on the chair and asked curiously, Mom, was that old man our grandfather? Xiao Bao was sipping on the orange juice as he asked curiously, is that old man our grandfather? Xia Dong's hand, which was holding the drink, stiffened. Her expression was terrible. Baby, don't talk about him. I don't want to talk about him. Oh, I got it. Xiao Bao Gigai shut her mouth, picked up a hamburger and handed it to her. Mommy, don't be sad. Eat. Xia Dong forced a smile and stroked her son's head. I'm not hungry. You guys eat. I'll take you to see Grandma after dinner. Grandma? Xiao Guai blinked her big watery eyes. Is that Mommy's mommy? Yes, Mommy will take you to see her. She'll be very happy. Just as Xia Dong brought the children out of McDonald's, Su Xingqian also came out. He drove his Ferrari and followed behind them, maintaining a distance that was neither too far nor too close. Since he wouldn't be discovered, he wouldn't lose them either. The white BMW drove into the suburban cemetery. A few minutes later, a Ferrari pulled up behind the BMW. Xiao Guai held a bouquet of lilies in her hands. Xia Dong carried Xiao Guai and held Xiao Bao's hand as they walked into the cemetery. Small tombstones were erected, looking eerie. Xiao Guai hugged her neck and asked gently, Mommy, why does Grandma live here? This place looks so scary. Xia Dong hugged her daughter tightly and said in a low voice, because Grandma has gone to a place very, very far away. This is just a place to remember her. Xiao Guai still didn't understand, but seeing her mommy's sad expression, she didn't ask any more questions. Xia Dong walked in front of a black tombstone. The words, the tomb of the loving mother Xia Ling, were engraved on the tombstone. There was also a small photo of a woman in the photo smiling gently. Xia Dong placed the lilies in front of the tombstone and pursed her lips gently. Mommy, I brought the children to see you. She pulled Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao to kneel in front of the tombstone and said softly, Xiao Bao, Xiao Guai, this is your grandmother. Call her Grandma. Grandma, a crisp voice drifted in the quiet air. Mommy, I only came to see you now. Do you blame me? Xia Dong touched the photo on the tombstone and her eyes were misty. She had so many things to say to her mother, but she couldn't say it in front of the children. In the end, she could only smile bitterly. Mommy, I'm sorry. I've done a lot of wrong things. I'm too ashamed to see you. Mommy, I saw Xiaozhenqing today. He didn't know you were gone. Mommy, I scolded him, but I'm also very sad. Unknowingly, tears were streaming down her face. Mommy, I really miss you. She would never forget the day when the results of the junior high exam were released. She happily ran home to report the good news to her mother, but when she ran into the alley, she saw her house being engulfed in flames. She cried and screamed crazily, wanting to rush into the fire, but the neighbor stopped her. In the end, she cried until she fainted in the uncle's arms. Her mother died in the sea of fire just like that. Not even her bones were left. The neighbors said that her mother set the fire because she couldn't stand being abandoned by her husband and couldn't stand the torment of a hard life. Mommy. Why didn't you wait until I grew up? Why didn't you wait until I was filial to you? She held on to the tombstone and cried until she was out of breath. Mommy, don't cry. Mommy. Gigai is so scared. Her daughter's delicate face was also full of tears, but she used her soft little hands to wipe away her mother's tears. Looking at her sensible daughter in front of her, Xia Dong gritted her teeth and suppressed the sadness in her heart. She hugged her daughter tightly in her arms. Why did God have to torture her like this? Her daughter was so young, but she had to endure the torment of illness. A small hand gently stroked her back and comforted her. Mommy, I'll protect you from now on. Xia Dong looked up with tears in her eyes and saw her son's strong face. His cheeks were so young, but they were filled with courage and tenacity. She slowly curved her lips and revealed a smile. Good, our little boy has grown up into a man. She should have been brave in front of her children, but she revealed her weak side. Her emotions gradually calmed down. She stroked the children's heads and said softly, Baby, Gigai, say goodbye to Grandma. We'll visit her again next time. Xiao Guai leaned closer to the tombstone and rubbed her pink cheeks against the photo. She said softly, Grandma, if you want Gigai, we'll visit you again. Xiao Bao stood with his chest puffed out and his head raised. He said solemnly, Grandma, don't worry. I'll take good care of Mommy and Xiao Guai. Mommy, please bless Gigai and let her live a healthy and happy life. Please also bless Baby and let him live a safe and happy life. After saying goodbye, Xia Dong left the cemetery with the children with red and swollen eyes. After they left, a beautiful figure stood up in front of another tombstone. She held a recording pen in her hand and smiled sweetly, but it seemed a little strange. My good sister, I didn't expect you to bring me such a big surprise. Thank you so much. Su Xingqian walked out of the cemetery while talking on the phone. Hello, Sister Yunqian, I found something very interesting. It's related to Xia Dong. Do you want to know? What is it? Do you know Xia Xiaobao and Xiao Guai? Aren't they Xia Dong's cousin's children? Su Xingqian smiled brightly. That's not right. They're actually Xia Dong's children. I heard them call Xia Dong Mommy with my own ears. On the other side of the phone, Su Yunqian's body trembled. A terrifying thought suddenly popped up in her mind. Her voice was dry. Who's the father of the children? Su Xingqian shrugged. Who knows? Maybe it's Brother Han. There was silence on the other side of the phone. After a few seconds, Su Xingqian heard a bang and then it was completely silent. The smile on her lips became brighter and brighter. She hummed a little tune and raised her hands in a circle happily. La la la, after returning home, Su Xingqian found that his parents were not home. The servant said, Miss, Sir is hospitalized. Madam is accompanying him in the hospital. Madam also told Miss not to worry. Sir is just suffering from a heart attack and it's not very serious. Okay, I got it. You can leave now. Su Xingqian acted as if nothing had happened. She went upstairs and entered her room. Her fair and slender fingers played with the recording pen. Her delicate eyebrows furrowed slightly. She supported her cheek with one hand and said in annoyance, "Recording pen, recording pen. Who should I hand you to? Give it to Grandma Bailey?" "No, no, Grandma will definitely think that I'm a gossiper. She'll hate me." "Hand it to the media." "No, no, if those two little bastards are Brother Han's children, then Brother Han will know the truth." "Okay, I'll hand it to Sister Yunqian. Let her worry about it." She snapped her fingers and put it in a document bag. She asked the servant to send it to Su Yunqian's office as fast as possible. After Su Yunqian returned from England, she returned to the family business and took up the position of director of the planning department. On the surface, she was only the director of the planning department, but everyone in the company knew that she was the future leader. Even the people on the board of directors were respectful to her. However, Su Yunqian never put on airs. She was always pleasant to everyone. However, the assistant felt that Su Yunqian was a little strange today. She accidentally broke the cup twice in a row. The first time was after she received a private call. The second time was after she received a document bag. Su Yunqian quickly restrained her anger and hatred and made a phone call. "Help me do something." The next day, the recording on the recording pen was made into a CD and mailed anonymously to old Madame Bailey. Not even a fingerprint was left. After old Madame Bailey heard the contents of the CD, her expression changed. She ordered the driver to get the car. She had to go out. Xia Dong had just picked up the children from kindergarten when a black car drove in front of her. Old Madame walked out with a cold face. "Xia Dong, I want to talk to you." The neighbors in the neighborhood looked over curiously. Xia Dong smiled bitterly. "Old Madam, please come upstairs with me." She drove the children back to their room. She made a cup of tea and put it in front of Old Madam. "Old Madam, you can say whatever you want." Old Madam went straight to the point. "Xia Xiaobao and Xiao Guai, are they your children?" Xia Dong thought about why Old Madam suddenly asked this question. She smiled calmly. "Old Madam, you already know whether they are my children or not." Old Madam sneered. "I got the news that they were your nephews. But today, I heard that they are actually your biological children." Add, Songshu 566. Chapter 80. Xia Dong paused and picked up the teacup. She took a sip and said, "To be honest, they are indeed my children." "Good for you, Xia Dong. You've played the dirty trick again and again. You're as cunning as a fox." Old Madam slammed the teacup on the coffee table, causing the tea to splash. She said sternly, "Are they Ahan's children?" Xia Dong laughed mockingly. "Old Madam, you should know better than me whether they are Bailey Han's children or not. When I was still in the delivery room, you kidnapped my aunt and uncle and forced me to take Xiao Yi away from me. Don't you know better than me how many children I had at that time? To think that I made the wrong choice back then. I wanted to set you up with Ahan, but I didn't expect you to escape to Japan with a big belly. Forget it, I don't want to talk about the past. Since you deny that they are Ahan's children, then tell me, who is their biological father?" Xia Dong gritted her teeth and remained silent. Old Madam was aggressive. "Tell me, who is their father?" "It's me." A deep and magnetic voice sounded, accompanied by footsteps. Old Madam turned her head and saw a tall man with handsome features. He was wearing a white robe that was slightly open, revealing his strong chest. He crossed his arms around his shoulders and his deep eyes revealed a dangerous look. Old Madam frowned. "Who are you?" Xia Dong was shocked. "Brother Shen." Mika Keto walked over and sat beside Xia Dong. He naturally put his arm around her shoulders and announced domineeringly, "I'm Xia Dong's man, Mika Keto." Xia Dong's mouth twitched. She wanted to say something, but in the end, she held back. Old Madam's suspicious gaze moved back and forth between the two of them. Finally, her probing gaze landed on Mika Keto. "Your surname is Beitang." Who is Beitang Haichi to you? Mikakito said calmly, my father. Old Madam was silent for a moment and said slowly, young man, you said that you are Xia Dong's man. Are those two children also your children? You have good hearing and a good memory. Mikakito's tone had a hint of sarcasm. Old Madam's face darkened. Young man, there's an old saying in China, a strong dragon can't suppress a snake. I advise you not to be too arrogant. Beitang Shin's expression did not change, but his tone became more serious. My woman and child are naturally under my protection. If anyone dares to touch them, even if I have to use the entire Yamaguchi-gumi to fight, I will not hesitate. The Bailey family is very powerful in a city, but the Yamaguchi-gumi is not weak either. Even if the Yamaguchi-gumi is at a disadvantage here, Mikakito has the determination to perish together with the Yamaguchi-gumi. This is something that old Madam can't compare to. She has considered too many things for the entire Bailey family. The coldness in old Madam's eyes gradually dissipated, and her expression gradually calmed down. She said, speaking of which, my old man and your father are old friends. With such a promising son like you, he should be able to enjoy his old age in peace. Mikakito knew that old Madam was expressing goodwill. He went down her ladder and said with a smile, it's rare that old Madam still remembers my father. It's a pity that he passed away 5 years ago. Old Madam had not paid attention to the foreign mafia for a long time. When she heard that Beitang Tsurui had passed away, she was shocked and sighed. Mikakito chatted with her for a while. After going around in circles, they returned to the main topic. Old Madam sipped her tea and turned to look at Xia Dong. She said slowly, Miss Xia, I hope you still remember what I said last time. Xia Dong said calmly, of course. I still remember every word that old Madam said. That's good. I won't disturb the two of you. Old Madam, let me walk you out. Xia Dong walked old Madam to the door and locked it. She returned to the living room and looked at Mikakito without saying a word. Mikakito smiled. Xia, are you not happy to see me? Xia Dong felt a headache coming on. Brother Shen, why didn't you tell me before you came? I was caught off guard by your sudden appearance. He shrugged nonchalantly. I wanted to give you and the babies a surprise. Xia Dong felt helpless. She walked up to him and tightened his slightly open robe. She asked, when did you arrive? Have you eaten? Not long after I got off the plane. I took a shower and was resting in your room when I heard the sound of you coming back. He touched her head. Do you still mind that I said that I'm the baby's father? Xia Dong lowered her head sadly. Although I do mind, I know that if you hadn't suddenly jumped out to help me, I really wouldn't know what to do. Mikakito pulled her into his arms and hugged her tightly. His voice was deep and magnetic. Don't worry about it in the future. Learn to rely on your man. Do you really think that you're my man? Xia Dong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She punched his chest. Mikakito raised his eyebrows. Since I've already said it, I can't take it back. Not only am I your man, but I'm also Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai's daddy. Fine. You'll rot if I give you a little sunlight. Xia Dong pushed him and changed the topic. Bao Bao and Gigai have been talking about you for a long time. Go and see them. Bao Bao, Gigai, come out and see who's here. Xia Dong knocked on the door of her son and daughter's room. Ah! Uncle Shen. Gigai missed you so much. Xiao Guai cheered and threw herself into Mikakito's arms. Uncle Shen. Xiao Bao also threw herself at him. Her handsome little face was full of excitement. You two little rascals, did you listen to mommy's words like Gigai? Mikakito hugged the children in each arm and played with them on the sofa. Xia Dong looked at them with a smile in her eyes. Mommy, don't just stand there. Come and play with us. The children pulled her over, and the four of them started playing games. Laughter and screams drifted in the room. At night, Xia Dong personally made many of Mika Kito's favorite dishes. They gathered together like a family and talked about the interesting things that had happened recently. They played with the children happily. It was late at night, and it was time to rest. Xia Dong took a quilt and laid it on the sofa in the living room. Brother Shen, you sleep in my room tonight. I'll sleep in the living room. Mika Kito laughed. How can a woman sleep in the living room? Go back to your room and sleep. I'll sleep on the sofa. Xia Dong pushed him away. You just got off the plane. You must be very tired. You can rest well on the bed. Besides, are you sure you won't fall off if you sleep on the sofa? So, don't argue with me. Go back to your room and rest. Xia. Mika Kito refused to compromise. I'm a man. I can't let you suffer. Xia Dong rolled her eyes. Come on, you male chauvinist. This is my territory. Listen to me. Go back to your room and sleep. To prevent him from nagging, Xia Dong turned off the lights and lay down on the sofa. Anyway, the sofa is my territory. You can't take it away from me even if you want to. Mika Kito shook his head in amusement when he saw how shameless she was. In fact, he had many ways to make her compromise, but it felt so good to be cared for by her that he couldn't bear to reject her. The soft quilt had a faint fragrance. It was her scent. Lying on her bed, it was like being hugged by her. Beitang Shen's entire body and mind relaxed. Soon, he felt sleepy. However, he had been paying attention to the movements in the living room, so he restrained himself and prevented himself from falling asleep. Finally, the sound of tossing and turning in the living room stopped. She was fast asleep. Mika Kito quietly approached the sofa, bent down, and carried her up from the sofa. He gently placed her on the bed. As soon as Xia Dong returned to her familiar territory, she automatically hugged the quilt. Mika Kito's lips curved into a smile. He pulled the quilt over her and fell asleep next to her. The next day, Xia Dong got up from the sofa sleepily. She patted the sofa in her house with satisfaction. It was soft and comfortable. She slept on the sofa all night and didn't feel uncomfortable at all. Just as she was wrapped in the blanket and giggling foolishly, Beitang Shen walked out of the bathroom. Because of the presence of the children, he paid special attention to his image. He had already changed his clothes, but his hair was still a little wet. Xia Dong waved her hands foolishly. Brother Shen, good morning. Mika Kito rubbed her messy hair and smiled. Good morning. Did you sleep well last night? Yes, very well. She jumped down from the sofa. I also had 2 strange dreams. I dreamed that I was on a plane that flew to my bed and then to the sofa. Ha ha ha. Isn't it strange? Mika Kito's lips curved into a smile. Yes, it is strange. Go and wash up. I'll send the children to school with you later. After breakfast, Mika Kito carried Xiao Guai while Xia Dong held Xiao Bao's hand and went downstairs to pick up the car. Along the way, they bumped into acquaintances. Everyone greeted them happily. Miss Xia, is this your husband? He's so good-looking. Hearing the first person say this, Xia Dong explained, No, this is my brother. Hearing the second person say this, she continued to explain. After hearing more than 10 people say this, Xia Dong finally realized that she couldn't stop the rumors on her own. She could only sit in the car and sulk. Mika Kito saw her angry face through the rearview mirror and couldn't help but tease her. Xia, why don't I write a notice and post it in the neighborhood to tell everyone the truth? It's all your fault. Who asked you to be so handsome? Xia Dong pestered him endlessly, attributing all the fault to his good looks. Mika Kito couldn't help but cough. Xiao Guai stood up for him. Mommy, it's not Uncle Shen's fault that he's good-looking, Xiao Bao also spoke up for him. Mom, can I take it that you're being unreasonable? Oh, Oh, this was too despicable. The children were already siding with him so quickly. How could they abandon their poor mommy? Xia Dong wanted to scratch the car seat. Uncle Shen, goodbye. When the car arrived at the kindergarten, the two little guys pounced on Mika Keto and kissed him. Then, they waved at Xia Dong. Mommy, goodbye. Xia Dong's heart ached when he saw the difference in treatment so quickly. Why do you only kiss your Uncle Shen and not Mommy? Mommy, don't be jealous. Gigai kisses you too. Her daughter was still the cutest. She hugged her and gave her a loud kiss. Xiaobao snorted arrogantly and jumped out of the car, ignoring her. Not far from them, a Rolls-Royce was parked. Bailey Yi waved to the people in the car. Daddy, goodbye. Bailey Han nodded. Seeing his son enter the school gate, he instructed the driver to drive. He accidentally saw a man rubbing Xia Dong's hair. Xia Dong pouted as if she was complaining about something. The man smiled and looked at her with a focused and affectionate expression. It was so dazzling. His mood suddenly became very bad. Ad. Hongcha 866. Chapter 81. In the chief editor's office of Glamour magazine, Xia Dong dialed Bailey Han's number. Mr. Bailey, do you have time? I would like to see you. You can talk over the phone. Bailey Han leaned back in his comfortable office chair. His slender fingers tapped on the table impatiently. At this moment, the scene he saw outside the kindergarten in the morning popped into his mind. It was the scene of her and a man being very intimate. Xia Dong paused and said, "It's about the 100,000 yuan check. Xiao Bao is not sensible. I apologize to you on his behalf. Also, I will ask my assistant to send the check to your office." No need. Bailey Han's tone suddenly became serious. I never take back what I have given away. Xia Dong thought for a moment and said, "In that case, I will donate it to charity in your name. Since you have already given it away, you have the right to use it." You don't have to tell me. Bailey Han said coldly. Xia Dong choked. She did not understand why Bailey Han sounded so angry. Is there anything else? Bailey Han did not hear a response, so he frowned impatiently. If there is nothing else, I will not disturb you. Goodbye. Xia Dong shook her head. Why did she think so much? Anyway, she had never seen through Bailey Han. At the old Bailey mansion, Su Yunxian was dressed beautifully and appropriately. She brought a blue and white porcelain vase to visit the old lady. Grandma, this is the blue and white porcelain vase that Daddy bought at an auction 2 days ago. He asked me to bring it to you. The old lady liked it at first sight. She put on her glasses and looked at the vase carefully. Oh, this is from the Song dynasty, right? It is so beautiful. Su Yunxian smiled and said, Daddy said that you have good taste. It is the blue and white porcelain vase's fortune to have you as its owner. This child is getting better at talking. Your daddy is so considerate. Please thank him for me. The old madam pulled her over to sit beside her and called for the housekeeper. Bring my jade vase down. The housekeeper responded and quickly brought a green jade vase from upstairs. The old madam said with a smile, Yunxian, do you think this vase is pretty? It's very beautiful and expensive. Old madam handed the vase to her. This vase is most suitable for a bouquet of roses. Put it on the dressing table. Yunxian, it's very suitable for young ladies like you. Grandma, this is too expensive. I can't accept it. This is also Grandma's goodwill. If you like it, just accept it. Being straightforward is the demeanor that our granddaughter-in-law of Bailey should have. On the surface, the old madam was giving her a gift, but in fact, she was hinting that her status had already been recognized by the Bailey family. Thank you, Grandma. Su Yunxian's lips curled up, maintaining her perfect posture. The old madam nodded with satisfaction. Although she didn't think highly of Su Yunqian before, she still loved Bailey Han for so many years. Even if he had a child, she didn't leave him. This kind of kindness was very rare. Moreover, she was very good at dealing with people. Gradually, she began to recognize Su Yunqian. The old madam glanced around and the servants on both sides automatically retreated. She patted the back of Su Yunqian's hand and said, "Yunqian, I heard that something unpleasant happened between you and Ahan. You haven't seen him recently." Su Yunqian smiled. She didn't complain or get angry. Her attitude was calm. "No, Grandma. We're fine. It's just that Ahan is a little busy. I don't want him to be so tired, so I didn't disturb him." The old madam was very satisfied with her attitude and said, "It's because he's a little busy that he needs a woman to take care of him. If two people are too close to each other, they'll get tired. If they're too far away, they'll become estranged. You have to control this." "I understand, Grandma. I'll take care of it." Su Yunqian furrowed her brows and revealed a troubled expression. The old madam asked, "What's wrong? Is there something else you're hiding from me?" "No. Actually, it's nothing. I just heard some gossip." Su Yunqian wanted to say something but stopped. "There's nothing you can't say in front of me. Just say whatever you want." "It's about Xia Dong." Xingqian said that she once saw Xia Dong shopping with her two little nephews on the street. The two children called Xia Dong Mommy. "Grandma, are they really Xia Dong's children? Then their father, could it be?" Su Yunqian stopped at just the right moment. "No." The old madam looked serious and said, "I know what you want to say. I've already asked her. The children's father is someone else." Su Yunqian felt relieved, but soon she had doubts. Could she be lying to you? "I've already seen the children's father. Moreover, when she gave birth to the children, there was only one. It can't be triplets." Su Yunqian was still worried, so she said, "Grandma, wouldn't it be safer to check their DNA and Han's? I've also thought about this, but I'm afraid that I'll disturb Ahan and he'll notice something. So, let's just leave it at that." The old madam waved her hand and did not want to talk about it anymore. Su Yunqian changed the topic and chatted with the old madam for half an hour before she left. After Su Yunqian left, the old madam began to think deeply. Who sent the CD to the Bailey family and what was that person's motive? In order to avoid a misunderstanding like last time and to avoid Mika Kito's attention, Xia Dong deliberately went to the hospital for a gynecological checkup during her lunch break. She chose the hospital where Yisiki's husband, Lin Shihao, worked. Xia Dong looked at Lin Shihao anxiously. "Shihao, how is it? Am I pregnant?" Lin Shihao carefully examined her and said regretfully, "You're not pregnant." Xia Dong's eyes immediately dimmed. Lin Shihao comforted her. "Xia Dong, don't be anxious. At your age, it's a little difficult to get pregnant. Try a few more times and you'll succeed." Xia Dong smiled bitterly. "A few more times? How can there be so many chances for me to try?" Lin Shihao patted her shoulder. "Xia Dong, this isn't like you. You're always optimistic. Think positively and don't be discouraged." Xia Dong grinned. "Shihao, thank you. I'll take my leave now." Lin Shihao nodded. He walked her to the door and watched her leave. A young and beautiful female doctor walked over and said with a smile, "Mr. Lin, why are you so reluctant to leave?" "Mei Wei, don't talk nonsense. Her name is Xia Dong. She's my wife's best friend." Xia Dong. Bai Mei Wei looked at Xia Dong's back. "She's very beautiful and classy. What does she do for a living?" "She's an editor for a fashion magazine." Lin Shihao smiled and changed the topic. "How is it? Are you used to it? Don't I have Mr. Lin to guide me?" "I'm already used to it. I have to thank Mr. Lin for this." Bai Meiwei was the director's daughter and had just returned from studying in America. She blinked. Mr. Lin, I'll treat you to dinner tonight to express my gratitude. Is that okay? There's no need to treat me. You don't have to be so polite. This is what I should do. She was unyielding. Then let's treat it as a junior trying to build a relationship with Mr. Lin. Lin Shihao smiled apologetically. I have to go home to accompany my wife. I don't have time. Bai Meiwei raised her eyebrows disapprovingly. Mr. Lin, you're such a good husband. But then again, aren't you tired of eating your wife's cooking for 5 years? Lin Shihao was already used to her straightforward words. He smiled and did not answer her question. I have an operation later. I can't accompany you. When Bai Meiwei returned to her office, her phone rang. It was a call from her good friend. Hello, Fian. What's the matter? Meiwei, Xingqian said he's treating us to a bar. Are you interested? Sure. See you at Charm Bar at 8 tonight. Bai Meiwei was in a bad mood and wanted to relax. Charm Bar. Xia Dong was leaning on the bar counter with several empty drinks in front of her. Miss, are you okay? The bartender knocked on the bar counter. I'm fine. What could be wrong with me? Xia Dong raised her head gloomily. She supported her chin with one hand and muttered to herself, I really want to drink. Non-alcoholic drinks were no longer able to relieve the boredom in her heart. She wanted to drink, but she had a bad habit of being muddle-headed when drunk. She had no choice but to restrain her desire. The handsome bartender smiled. He mixed a cocktail and placed it in front of her. Let's get drunk today. This drink is on me. Xia Dong's face was bitter. Thank you for your kindness, but I don't dare to drink. I'm an idiot who gets drunk when she drinks. The bartender couldn't help but laugh. This woman was really special. Miss, since you came to a bar, you should get yourself drunk. Don't worry so much. The bar was now playing nostalgic music with a touch of sadness. Xia Dong, who was already upset, became even more irritated. She stared at the cocktail in front of her for a minute and said to the bartender, Handsome, if I get drunk later and do something out of line, you must stop me. Xiao Tianxing walked in from the corridor and happened to hear her words. He asked curiously, what do you mean by, something out of line? Xia Dong counted on her fingers and counted her crimes. For example, singing in public, hugging a handsome guy's thigh, and following a handsome guy home. These are all counted as something out of line. Xiao Tianxing held back his laughter. Okay, I understand. Don't worry. When you get drunk, I'll be responsible for sending you home. Xiao Tianxing, you're such a good person. Xia Dong felt relieved and patted his shoulder heroically. Then it's settled. She picked up the cocktail glass and gulped it down like a cow drinking water. The bartender was so shocked that his eyeballs were about to fall out. Xiao Tianxing was not surprised. In any case, he had seen too many strange things from this woman. Xia Dong burped and leaned on the bar counter. Her face quickly turned red and her vision started to blur. Her reaction was so fast. Xiao Tianxing poked her arm with his finger. Xia, are you okay? No. I'm not okay. Xia Dong stood up. Her body was swaying as she pointed at Xiao Tianxing's nose and yelled, God, you stinking god. You don't like me, do you? Always playing with me like this. Are you done yet, you bastard? She roared so loudly that all the eyes in the bar gathered on her and Xiao Tianxing. Mr. Xiao. The bartender was dumbfounded and stammered, she seems to be drunk. Xiao Tianxing smiled bitterly. I know. Well, I didn't get to see a good show this time. I became a good show for everyone to see. What are you mumbling about? Let me tell you, damn God, don't think that I'm easy to bully. In my dictionary, there's no such thing as admitting defeat. I won't surrender to you, you bastard. Xia Dong's eyes were blurred. She leaned in front of Xiao Tiansheng and pointed at his nose as she cursed. Awesome novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 82. Well, you're drunk. I'll take you home. Tell me, where do you live? Xiao Tianxin grabbed her hand that was waving in front of him and asked with a wry smile. She smiled and leaned closer to him, almost leaning into his arms. You want to know my address? Yes, tell me quickly. I'm very eager to know. If he didn't send her away, he would become the laughing stock of the whole A city. I'm not going to tell you. Allah is not a good person. She rolled her eyes and even spoke in a dialect. She reached out and pushed Xiao Tianxing away. She staggered back to her seat and rummaged in her handbag. What are you looking for? Tell me, I'll help you find it. Xiao Tianxing deeply felt that he had shot himself in the foot. Go away, I don't want you to care about me. Xia Dong pushed him away again. After searching for a long time, she still couldn't find what she wanted. In a fit of anger, she lifted her handbag upside down and poured all the things inside on the bar. She rummaged around and found her mobile phone and dialed a number. Hello, Bailey Han, I want to see you. Xiao Tianxing held his forehead, but the next second, he revealed an evil smile. Was this a surprise? A sudden good show. When Xia Dong called, Bailey Han was eating with Bailey Yi at the dining table. The servant put his mobile phone to his ear. Seeing the caller ID, he hesitated for a moment and finally chose to answer. I'm Bailey Han. Hello, Bailey Han, I want to see you. What's the matter? A roar immediately came from the other side of the phone. Why are you talking so much nonsense? I asked you to come over, so come over. Bailey Han's eyes were burning with anger. He suppressed his anger in his voice. Xia Dong, do you know who you are talking to? I know you very well. You're Bailey Han, the president of the famous Shenghao Group. I just want to see you. Come here quickly. Bailey Han gritted his teeth so hard that creaking sounds could be heard. That damned woman, was she crazy? She actually dared to yell at him. He hung up the phone angrily with a bang. When he looked up and saw Bailey Yi looking at him curiously, the corners of Bailey Han's mouth twitched and he said, Daddy is full. I'll go upstairs first. Bailey Yi nodded, indicating that he understood. Just as he reached the staircase, his phone rang again. It was Xia Dong again. Bailey Han decisively rejected the call. When he walked to the door, Xia Dong called for the fourth time. He angrily pressed the answer button and prepared to scold her, but all he heard was the sound of sobbing. She was crying very sadly. Bailey Han couldn't help but imagine her tearful face. His heart actually felt a little stuffy. Bailey Han took a deep breath and tried to make his voice sound as gentle as possible. Xia Dong, what happened? The moment she heard his voice, Xia Dong cried even louder. She was like a child who had been wronged. She cried non-stop, but she didn't say what had happened. Her crying disturbed his thoughts. He frowned and said, Xia Dong, don't cry. What happened? Her emotions seemed to have calmed down a little. She sobbed and complained, Bailey Han, I'm sorry. I've let you down. But, can you help me one more time? He couldn't understand what she was talking about at all, but he keenly grasped the word, help, and asked, tell me first. How do you want me to help you? I don't know. I don't know. She cried again and kept saying, I'm sorry. He sighed and asked her, where are you now? I'll come over and look for you. I don't know, there was a lot of noise on the phone. She seemed to have caught someone and questioned them. Then, Bailey Han heard a man say, seductive charm. Following that, he heard her sobbing. A handsome guy said. I'm at seductive charm. Bailey Han's face darkened. He gritted his teeth. Are you drunk? No. No, I'm not drunk. Bailey Han's face darkened even more. He finally understood why she was acting like this. It turned out that she had gone to a bar and gotten herself drunk. He hadn't forgotten her terrible drinking habits. The last time she had gotten drunk at Seductive Charm, she had hugged his arm and wanted him to go with her. He gritted his teeth and said, "Wait for me at the bar, Gigai. I'll be right there." She answered Gigai with an, "Oh," and then asked curiously, "But why are you coming over?" Bailey Han's facial muscles twitched uncontrollably. He held the phone in one hand and put on his coat in the cloakroom with the other. He said, "Idiot, don't ask idiotic questions again. You're not allowed to hang up." She had stopped sobbing and protested softly, "I'm not an idiot." Bailey Han couldn't be bothered to leave her. He hurried downstairs, gave a few instructions to the servant, and then drove to Seductive Charm. He put on his Bluetooth headset. Through Xia Dong's phone, he could hear the loud music in the bar. He also heard Xia Dong talking to someone else. "Go away. I'm not drinking your wine." Someone must have hit on that idiot and even tried to make her drink. Bailey Han looked terrible. "Xia Dong, don't drink other people's wine. Go to the bar and look for Xiao Tiansheng." Bailey Han switched calls and called Xiao Tiansheng's cell phone, but no one answered. He switched to Xia Dong's phone again. Just as he was about to speak, the other side suddenly hung up. He cursed, stepped on the accelerator, and the car rushed out like it was flying. Xiao Tiansheng only went to the bathroom. When he came back, he found Xia Dong surrounded by two men. One man was holding her waist and pouring wine into her mouth. The other man had snatched her phone and was waving it in his hand smugly. The two men were regulars in the bar. They were biological brothers and liked to have a threesome with women. Xiao Tiansheng saw that the situation was not right and immediately rushed up. "Hey, you two, this is Mississippi. She's my friend. So she's Mr. Xiao's friend. Sorry to disturb you." The two men returned the phone and walked away reluctantly. As soon as the phone was returned to Xia Dong's hand, Bailey Han called. He scolded, "Idiot, didn't I tell you not to hang up? Why did you hang up?" Xia Dong pouted, feeling wronged. "I didn't hang up. Someone else hung up." Bailey Han said in a low voice, "Did you drink the wine that someone gave you?" "I took a sip." It was all that annoying man's fault. He kept putting the wine glass in front of her. She accidentally took a sip. "I'll be there soon. Sit down at the bar." Bailey Han had a headache. He did not know if she understood what he was saying to a drunk person. "Han, don't worry. I'll take good care of her." Xiao Tiansheng took the phone from Xia Dong's hand and said. Hearing Xiao Tiansheng's voice, Bailey Han was relieved. He said, "Tiansheng, take her to the private room to rest. I'll be there soon." Xiao Tiansheng hung up the phone and held Xia Dong's arm. Xia, come with me. I'll take you to rest." Xia Dong shook off his arm and looked at him warily. She shook her head like a rattle drum. "No, I want to wait for Bailey Han. Let's wait for him in the private room." "No, he told me to sit at the bar." Xiao Tiansheng felt that he was unlucky. Actually, he only had himself to blame. He was the one who wanted to see her make a fool of herself. Xia Dong was on guard against Xiao Tiansheng as if he was a bad guy. He didn't need Xiao Tiansheng's help. He staggered to the bar and fell asleep on it. Xiao Tiansheng accepted his fate and sat beside her to accompany her. Just then, 3 beautiful girls walked into the bar. The girl in the lead was wearing a cute dress with a bow on her head. When she saw Xiao Tiansheng sitting at the bar, she skipped over. "Tiansheng Gij, you're here tonight? Xingchen, are you guys here to have fun?" Xiao Tiansheng stood up and stood in front of Xia Dong. He smiled and greeted the other 2 girls. "Hi, Fian." "Hey, the other beauty looks unfamiliar." Bai Meiwei was wearing a sexy red dress. She smiled and said, "Hello, I'm Bai Meiwei. I'm Xingqin's university classmate." Xiao Tianqing smiled politely. "Welcome, your expenses tonight will be on my tab. I hope you guys have fun." He turned his gaze to Su Xingqian. "Xingqian, the hall is too noisy. Why don't you guys go to the private room?" Su Xingqian blinked and smiled. "No need, the hall is lively. Tianqing Gij, we'll go have fun first." The three girls held hands and chatted happily as they looked for a seat in the hall. Xiao Tianqing saw that they were no longer paying attention to him. He slowly moved away from Xia Dong and rubbed his chin. He had to tell Han about Su Xingqian at the bar to avoid any trouble. As he was thinking, Bailey Han walked in. An outstanding man like him attracted a lot of attention. Of course, this included Su Xingqian and the other two girls. Bai Meiwei nudged Su Xingqian with her elbow. "Xingqian, isn't that your Bailey Gij?" Bailey Fei Yan said, "It's really my cousin. What's he doing here?" Su Xingqian blinked her big beautiful eyes and quickly took out her phone. She pointed it at the bar and pretended to play with her phone. In reality, she took a picture of everything she saw. She saw Xiao Tianqing say something to Bailey Han and Bailey Han walk towards the private room. Then, she saw Xiao Tianqing help a woman who was lying on the bar next to him up and walk towards the private room. The woman's back looked familiar. Her long hair covered her face and she couldn't see what she looked like. Bai Meiwei suddenly said, "Hey, that woman, she looks familiar." Su Xingqian looked at her. "Meiwei, are you talking about the woman who was helped away by Tianqing Gij?" "Yes." Bai Meiwei patted her forehead and frowned. "Her dressing is very familiar. Where have I seen her before?" "Ah, right, she came to the hospital this afternoon. She was called, what was it?" "It seemed to be Xia Dong." "Yes, that's right, it's Xia Dong." "Xia Dong, it's actually her." Su Xingqian's big beautiful eyes emitted an eerie chill. She muttered in her heart. Where was Xiao Tianqing going with her? Just now, Xiao Tianqing had deliberately blocked her figure in order to protect her. Why did Brother Han appear here? Was it because of Xia Dong? Questions lingered in her mind. Half an hour had passed and Brother Han still didn't come out. Xia Dong also didn't come out. Su Xingqian's imagination began to bubble in her mind. She imagined Xia Dong and Brother Han in the same room. They even did this and that, their bodies entangled together. Her face was very ugly and she no longer had the mood to play. She said, Fei Yan, Mei Wei, I suddenly feel a little uncomfortable. I'll go back first. You guys have fun. Attention, Hangcha 866. Chapter 83. Xingqian, are you okay? Do you want me to send you home? Bai Meiwei asked worriedly. No need, I can go back by myself. I'm leaving first, bye-bye. Su Xingqian grabbed her handbag and hurriedly ran out. Without stopping for a moment, she ran to her car and got into the car. Out of nowhere, she took out a small doll. She gnashed her teeth and fiercely kneaded the doll. Her eyes burst with anger, making her face, under the dim light, distort into a terrible shape. In the VIP room, Xia Dong was lying on the sofa, fast asleep. Bailey Han frowned and bent down to pat her red cheeks. Xia Dong, wake up. Ugh. She impatiently turned over and muttered, I'm so sleepy, don't disturb me. The veins on Bailey Han's forehead throbbed and he increased the strength of his hands. Wake up. She finally opened her misty eyes and asked foolishly, Who are you? Bailey Han. He squeezed these 3 words out from between his teeth. Bailey Han. Her eyes quickly became misty and she threw herself into his embrace. She sobbed, Bailey Han, I'm sorry. Bailey Han's entire body froze. He wanted to push her away, but his hands didn't listen to him and he let her cry on his chest. After a long time, he put his hand on her back and patted her gently. His voice had a gentleness that he didn't notice. Tell me what happened. Bailey Han. Don't hate me. I had no choice. Xia Dong lied on his chest and sobbed as she complained. Even she didn't know what she was saying. What did you do to make me hate you? Drink and I'll tell you. Xia Dong suddenly raised her head, her beautiful eyes shining with a charming light. She pointed at the expensive wine on the wine rack and said, "Drink and I'll tell you." Bailey Han facepalmed. How could he take a drunk person so seriously? He must be crazy. Xia Dong pushed him away and stumbled to the wine rack. She took a bottle from the top and held it in her hands, giggling. If you don't want to drink, I'll drink. She uncorked the bottle, picked up the bottle and poured it into her mouth. Bailey Han strode forward and snatched the bottle, but he was still a step too late. She gulped down a few mouthfuls and stuck out her tongue pitifully. It's so spicy, who asked you to be so picky? You chose the strongest wine. It would be strange if it wasn't spicy. Bailey Han's face darkened as he stretched out his arm. Give me the bottle. No. This is mine. Xia Dong hugged him tightly as if he was a treasure. Leaning against the wall, she pointed at the wine on the wine rack and giggled. Those are yours. Bailey Han's face turned even uglier. You asked for it. He walked forward and forcefully snatched the bottle from her arms. She hugged him tightly, kicked him, and bit him with her teeth like an angry little wild cat. He was worried that he would hurt her, so he could only control his strength. However, his strength was too weak and he couldn't subdue her at all. In the struggle, the wine in the bottles spilled all over the two of them, and his hand accidentally touched the softness of her chest. The beautiful touch made Bailey Han feel as if he had been electrocuted. He quickly retracted his hand and coughed awkwardly to cover up his embarrassment. She was drunk and didn't care about his actions at all. She gasped for breath and said, "This is mine." "Don't fight with me," he said helplessly. "Okay, I won't fight with you. You can sleep with it. Where do you live? I'll take you home." She was like a frightened little beast, shrinking into the corner. "I don't want to go home. Brother Shen will be worried. The babies will be worried, you know that they will be worried." Bailey Han couldn't wait to pry open her head and see what was inside. Why was she so drunk? If she didn't understand, then she was very sober. If she was sober, then she was very confused. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed. "Wait, who is Brother Shen?" "Mika Kito, he, the man who touched your head outside the kindergarten?" She was at a loss. "I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about." Bailey Han gritted his teeth. Don't frown." She giggled and stretched her fingers to his face, trying to rub the wrinkles between his eyebrows. "Look, I have a truck full of troubles, but I'm not frowning. As long as I drink, all my troubles will be solved." Bailey Han, she wasn't frowning. She was just hugging him and crying. She shoved the bottle at him and said, "Here you go." Bailey Han quickly snatched the bottle and put it on the wine rack. She pouted unhappily. "I asked you to drink, but you didn't drink." "I don't want to drink." Bailey Han supported her stumbling body. "Since you don't want to go home, you can stay here for the night. Go take a bath. Help me take a bath." She hugged him and rubbed her body against him restlessly. "Brother Shen, can you help me take a bath?" Bailey Han's accumulated anger suddenly exploded. He grabbed her wrist and said fiercely, "Damn woman, look carefully." "Who am I?" She giggled. "Brother Shen, idiot, are you trying to drive me to my grave?" Bailey Han abruptly picked her up and carried her on his shoulder. He strode into the bathroom and threw her into the bathtub with a bang. He turned on the shower and used the cold water to wash her skin. "Are you a little more awake? Do you know who I am? Brother Shen, you're so fierce." She curled up in the bathtub pitifully and looked at him with her big, watery eyes, accusing him of being cruel. "You're really driving me to my grave." The veins on Bailey Han's forehead were throbbing. He pulled her out of the bathtub and kissed her delicate lips. He bit and sucked hard to vent his anger. She pushed his chest weakly, but he grabbed her hands and locked them behind her back. He hugged her tightly in his arms and kissed her deeply, punishing her. He only let go of her when she moaned in pain. His dark eyes stared into her misty ones, and he asked in a hoarse voice, "Woman, do you know who I am now?" "Brother Shen." She muttered pitifully. "You bit me, Brother Shen, Brother Shen, does she only have Mika Keto in her heart?" Bailey Han was angry and jealous. Looking at her lips that had become red and swollen because of his rough actions, he had the urge to press her down and punish her. "Damn it!" He cursed and flung her away. He threw her into the bathtub and left, slamming the door behind him. He walked quickly to the hall and sat by the bar. The anger in his heart was still uncontrollable. "What's wrong? Why do you look so upset? Did that little wildcat scratch you?" Xiao Tiansheng sat beside him and gestured for the bartender to pour a glass of wine and put it in front of Bailey Han. "Don't mention her." Bailey Han took a sip of wine in annoyance and said coldly. "Could it be that I guessed correctly?" Xiao Tiansheng supported his head with one hand and smiled lazily. "She's a very interesting woman. Only she would dare to treat you like this." Bailey Han finished the wine in his glass with a sullen face. The bartender immediately poured him another glass. Xiao Tiansheng saw his annoyed look and showed a rare kindness. He stopped teasing him and changed the topic. "When are you and Yunqian planning to get married?" Xiao Tiansheng didn't know that at this moment, Bailey Han was even more annoyed by this topic. His expression became even worse. He said coldly, "I want to be alone for a while." Xiao Tiansheng shrugged. "All right then. You can be alone for a while. But don't drink too much. I'll get someone to help you drive later." Bailey Han nodded. His long and slender fingers picked up the wine glass and poured another glass of wine after finishing the glass. They hadn't contacted Yunqian for a week. He was also seriously thinking about what she had said before. What did she want? He didn't know how much wine he had drunk, but his mind was still clear. He felt that he should go back and check on that idiot Xia Dong. What if she drowned herself in the bathtub? In the bathroom of the VIP room, Xia Dong leaned against the edge of the bathtub and fell asleep. Her clothes were pulled open, revealing a patch of spring. The soaked clothes wrapped around her body and didn't cover her at all. Instead, it outlined her curves and made her even more charming. She slept peacefully with a comfortable smile on her face. She seemed to be having a beautiful dream. As if possessed, he reached out and rubbed his fingers on her face. He slid his fingers from her smooth forehead to her sexy red lips and gently caressed them. She was disturbed in her sleep. She groaned impatiently and rubbed her cheek against the back of his hand. He chuckled. Tiansheng was right. You really are like a little wild cat baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. He put his arm around her waist and said in a low voice, "It's not comfortable to sleep here. I'll take you back to bed." Xia Dong woke up at that moment. However, she pretended not to wake up. She closed her eyes and lay on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. After being intoxicated by the alcohol, she became abnormally clear-headed. The person hugging her was Bailey Han. Her chance had come again. She was so excited that she almost couldn't control her emotions. She pretended to wake up slowly, still pretending to be drunk. She hugged his neck and murmured, "Bailey Han." Bailey Han looked down at the person in his arms and smiled. "You finally know who I am." Xia Dong hugged him tightly and said softly, "Bailey Han, you're so nice." He thought that she was still drunk, so he didn't argue with her. He put her in front of the bed, and her wet clothes immediately wet the carpet under her feet. "Stand firm. I'll get you a towel. He was actually drunk as well. He was swaying as he walked, but his mind was still clear. He took the towel and let her wipe herself. She pouted and said pitifully, "No, I want you to help me wipe myself." Xia Dong couldn't help but shiver when she made such a coquettish sound. Bailey Han was already used to her torment. He sighed helplessly and really helped her wipe herself. Xia Dong was like a puppet. She let him take off her wet clothes and wrapped herself in a towel. "Bailey Han, why aren't you married yet?" she asked curiously as she tilted her head. Bailey Han frowned. He started to feel dizzy. "You don't have to care about my matters. I think it's not easy for Su Yunqian. She loves you so much." Xia Dong felt guilty that she stole his seed and caused Bailey Han to betray Su Yunqian. She wanted to make up for it. Bailey Han was also drunk. He unknowingly said what was on his mind. "I love her and have thought of marrying her, but I don't know why, but I've been feeling more and more tired recently. It's like there's something missing between us." Ha, men are all the same. When they're tired of it, they abandon it. I'm not. You've already made it very obvious. Ad, Xinwu 799. Chapter 84. The mocking smile on her face stung his eyes. He wanted to stop her chattering mouth. So, he suddenly pulled her into his arms and kissed her lips. The beautiful taste made him sink into it. He couldn't extricate himself. His initial goal had changed. He enjoyed the feeling of kissing her. It wasn't known who touched the other's body first, but they rolled onto the bed. Although Bailey Han was already drunk, he was very clear about what he was doing. He suddenly wanted to indulge himself for once, so he didn't force himself to suppress it. He felt strange. Every time he was with Yun Qian, he would restrain himself at the last moment when he was aroused. He couldn't have her. Why did he have Xia Dong so naturally? They were like two lonely souls that fit together perfectly. They panted and moaned. The whole room was filled with an ambiguous atmosphere. This time, Bailey Han woke up first. Xia Dong lay naked in his arms. He rubbed his eyebrows. He had a headache. He remembered clearly what happened last night. He was the one who initiated it. Just as Bailey Han was having a headache, the door of the room was suddenly slammed open. A man barged in aggressively. Behind him were the bodyguards who couldn't stop him. Bailey Han quickly pulled the blanket over Xia Dong. He looked at the man who barged in. His eyes were burning with anger. "Get him out." When Bai Tangshan saw the scene on the bed, he flew into a rage and rushed forward. When the bodyguards heard Bailey Han's order, they rushed forward to stop Bai Tangshan without any regard for their lives. However, they were beaten down by him with a few punches. Bailey Han didn't stay idle. He quickly put on his clothes and raised his leg to block Mika Kito's fatal blow. Mika Kito didn't hit him. He punched again. The fierce wind from his fist came. In just a few minutes, the two of them had exchanged dozens of blows. "Bailey Han, you bastard. I'm going to kill you." Mika Kito gnashed his teeth. His eyes were bloodshot. He was violent and bloodthirsty. His every move was ruthless and fatal. Bailey Han had never met such a strong opponent. He didn't dare to be careless. He pursed his lips and his eyes were cold. "What's your relationship with Xia Dong? You don't deserve to know." Mika Kito punched his nose. "You damn bastard. You've hurt Xia so deeply. How can you bear to hurt her?" Bailey Han reached out to block his fist. His face was cold. "This is between me and her. You don't have to interfere. Someone like you doesn't deserve her." The two of them put their arms together. They were evenly matched. One was cold and domineering, while the other was ruthless and heartless. They fought each other with their eyes and a strong aura enveloped them. Xiao Tiansheng, who had heard the news, came over and saw them fighting. He gestured for the bodyguards to leave. He slowly walked over to the two of them and said, "You two, let's sit down and talk. It's not good to scare Xia Dong." Bailey Han and Mika Keto turned their heads at the same time and looked at Xia Dong on the bed. Xia Dong hid under the quilt and covered her head tightly. She didn't expect Brother Shen to see this scene. She was so embarrassed and didn't know how to face him. She could only hide like an ostrich. Beitang Shen's anger flared up even more. He couldn't wait to skin Bailey Han alive. Xia, did this bastard force you to do this? Don't worry, I'll get justice for you." Xia Dong wanted to kill herself with a piece of tofu. She gritted her teeth, pulled the quilt away from her head, and said clearly, "Brother Shen, let him go." Xia. Mika Keto looked at Xia Dong in disbelief. Xia Dong met his angry gaze firmly and repeated, "Brother Shen, let him go." With a loud bang, Beitang Shen's fist smashed on the glass table beside Bailey Han, and a crack instantly appeared on the table. Beitang Shen glared at Bailey Han fiercely, as if he wanted to stare a hole into Bailey Han before he felt relieved. He squeezed out a word from between his teeth, "Get lost." Bailey Han straightened his clothes that were messed up by Mika Keto's claw. Even so, his movements were arrogant and dignified, without any trace of embarrassment. He looked at Xia Dong and said calmly, "I'll give you an explanation." Xia Dong hurriedly said, "No need. Let's forget what happened last night." Bailey Han looked at her deeply and left calmly. Only Xia Dong and Mika Keto were left in the room. Xia Dong immediately felt a strong pressure. It was like a mountain pressing down on her, making it hard for her to breathe. She shrunk her neck and said dryly, "Brother Shen, can you go out for a while?" Mika Keto's thin lips were tightly pursed. Her eyes were as dark as the sky before a storm, terrifyingly cold. She timidly called out again, "Brother Shen." Mika Keto's body stiffened. She clenched her fists and tried to control her anger. She said as calmly as she could, "Okay, I'll be outside. Call me if you need anything." In the bathroom, Xia Dong looked at herself in the mirror. She was in a mess, especially the bruises on her neck. She pulled a long face and was about to cry. After taking her time to wash up, she walked out of the bathroom wrapped in a bathrobe and found a dress on the bed. Then, she heard Mika Keto knocking on the door. Xia, I got someone to buy a dress. It's on the bed. Try it on." "Okay. Thank you, Brother Shen." Xia Dong changed into the dress. It fit her very well, as if it was specially designed for her. However, the bruises on her neck were very obvious. It was obvious at a glance what had happened. She opened the door awkwardly and almost didn't dare to look at Mika Keto, who was waiting at the door. Mika Keto's eyes fell on the bruises on her neck. His pupils constricted and a cold storm swept across his face. He clenched his fists and suppressed his anger. He took off his jacket and gently draped it over her shoulders, barely covering the bruises. "Let's go home." As usual, Mika Keto wanted to hold her hand, but she gently avoided it. Mika Keto's hand fell to the air in disappointment. Xia Dong avoided contact with him because she felt guilty. Mika Keto misunderstood. He thought that Bailey Han had hurt her deeply and made her feel insecure. Mika Keto's heart suddenly ached. Besides the heartache, there was also a deep-seated hatred for Bailey Han. Mika Keto considerately opened the car door for her. She smiled and sat quietly in the furthest corner of the car. If it was in the past, she would definitely sit with him in the driver's seat. She would chat with him and smile brightly. Seeing her acting strangely, Mika Keto's hatred for Bailey Han deepened. He also blamed himself. If he had found her missing earlier, she wouldn't have been hurt by Bailey Han. When they got home, Bao Bao and Gigai had already gone to kindergarten. Mika Keto sent her back to her room. "Don't go to work today. I've applied for leave for you. She rubbed her fingers. I'm fine. I have to review the manuscript today. I can't be absent. Then I'll ask your assistant to send the manuscript to your email. You can review it at home too. Mika Kito's attitude was firm. Xia Dong couldn't argue with him, so she could only nod in agreement. Mika Kito indeed asked Lilith to send the manuscript to her email. He also called the Human Resources Department to apply for leave. Xia Dong belatedly realized a problem. If Mika Kito applied for leave for her, would her colleagues have any bad thoughts? However, now was not the time to worry about this. She had more troublesome things to deal with. She held the glass of warm water that Mika Kito poured for her. She hesitated for a while and said, "Brother Shen, what happened last night?" Mika Kito interrupted her. He didn't want her to recall the bad memories. "Don't mention what happened last night. You should rest first. I'm going out for a while. I'll be back soon." Xia Dong quickly grabbed his arm and said anxiously, "Brother Shen, promise me that you won't hurt Bailey Han." She knew what he was capable of. He definitely wouldn't let Bailey Han off. As if a cold wind had passed through, Mika Kito's eyes quickly turned cold. "You're protecting him?" "No, Brother Shen. You've just arrived in China. Don't stir up trouble so easily. You know that Bailey's family has some influence in a city. Promise me that you won't get into a conflict with them, okay?" There was an indecipherable emotion in his eyes. "I promise you that I won't hurt him." But he wouldn't let him off either. Xia Dong let go of his arm and forced a smile. "Then come back early. I'll wait for you to have lunch together." "Okay." He rubbed her hair gently. Mika Kito walked into the elevator and called Jiang Dao. "Jiang Dao, help me check Bailey Han's background. I want to know all his business partners and competitors within 2 days." After hanging up the phone, Mika Kito's lips curled into a sinister smile. He had only promised Xia that he wouldn't hurt Bailey Han, but he didn't say that he wouldn't destroy his career. For a proud man like him, destroying his career was equivalent to destroying his self-esteem. It would be more effective than hurting him directly. Boa Real Estate, a company that was on the verge of bankruptcy because of the shoddy construction, suddenly grew stronger overnight. It was rumored that this company had the backing of 2 major conglomerates, Italy and Japan. From the chairman to the senior management, there was a complete change in personnel. The current chairman was Japanese and his name was Mika Kito. Not only did Boa Real Estate invest in real estate, but it also began to enter the gaming industry and the clothing industry. It acquired several companies that were relatively competitive. Boa Real Estate and its subsidiaries and branches were officially renamed Boa Group, with Mika Kito as the group's CEO. From then on, Boa Group became Xinghao Group's biggest competitor. Mika Kito's name immediately swept the streets and alleys. He became the new favorite of the media and the latest target of the socialites. He and Bailey Han were ranked at the top of the list of men that women in a city wanted to marry the most. Bailey Han's office. Assistant Lu Zihao placed a thick stack of Mika Kito's documents on Bailey Han's desk and said, "In just a week, Mika Kito has created so much influence. President, this man is not simple." Bailey Han's eyes flashed and he said coldly, "He is the head of the Japanese Senku Group and the adopted son of Tomac, the godfather of the Italian mafia. How can he be simple?" Cold sweat broke out on Lu Zihao's forehead. All the information he collected was after Mika Kito's name was cleared. He didn't know that he had a background in the underworld. "President, the downstream manufacturers that have been working with us have reported that Boa Group will give them higher profits. I think they are a little restless." Bailey Han threw the documents on the desk with a bang, his whole body exuding an oppressive aura. "That group of people are businessmen who only care about profits. They only have profits in their eyes, and only rich profits can bind them. It's normal for them to have ideas. But President, if our partner company betrays us and works with the Boa Group, then we will suffer a lot of losses. awesome novel Songshu 566. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.